Okay, I think we're live. Let me get rid of this. Hold on a second. Okay. Yep, we're live. Good to see everybody. It's 1:13 in the morning. It's actually Sunday morning, 10/19/2025. And let's see who we got here so far. We got our wonderful Heather is here. It is so good to see Heather. The best thing I've seen all week, actually. Good to see you, Heather. I hope you're well. I think we got the good news last week from Mino Dino that you're doing better. So we're going to leave it at that. Let us know how you're doing. We got Paula in the house. Hey, Paula, how are you? Good to see you. And I'm in here right there. We got Mino Dino in here. Good to see Mino Dino, buddy. Hope you're well. Haven't seen you for a while. We got Honeybees in here. Where's Honeybee? Where's Honeybee? There she is. Hi, Honeybee. How are you? Good to see you. Honeybee's amazing. I was just over there. I think she uploaded something today. It was awesome. It's always good to see Honeybee in here. Great news. That's awesome. That's all right. That's all right, Paula. You're good. Here's the deal. I've been alone for the last, 4 days or so. What's today? Today's Sunday. So yeah, 4 days. Wife and the kids are down in Texas. They went to go to a wedding down in Texas. And so I've been alone in the house with myself and the cats, dogs, and rodents. So anytime I'm alone by myself in this house, it could get bad. So, but anyways, enough about me. Honeybee's here. It's always good to see Honeybee. Gretchen is here. Good to see Gretchen. Dino, sweet dude, Shibby's in here. Awesome to see everybody. Who else is in here? Let's see here. I'm trying to scroll down. Tracy's in here. Tracy's right there. That's so awesome. That is freaking great news. So glad to hear that. Luis Cuevas is in here. Good to see Luis Cuevas. Boston Christian is in here. So I'm going to say thank you for coming in now, because I always forget Luis Cuevas and I always forget Boston Christian. So thank you for coming in. Thank you for everybody for coming in. Let's see who else. Mustang's here. Good to see Mustang. Always good to see Mustang. So this week we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to go through the true crime cases as normal, but I wanted to get into some of this stuff that I've been following for, I don't know, it seems like an eternity in my life. Carol's in here too. Good to see Carol. Always good to see Carol. We're going to go back in time. We're going to go back to about 15th century England. Right around there. We're going to look up some of this information that came out not too long ago, but let me play an intro. We'll get right into it. And then kind of towards the second half, we'll do some of the true crime stuff this century anyways. So let's go do this. Hold on one second here. But it's good to see everybody. Hope everybody's doing well this week. Like I said, it's been a pretty crazy week because I've been by myself, and whenever I'm alone, it's. I went to go fix the taillight in my car finally, since I had some time, and I went to go fix it. And then Dieter's here too. Good to see Dieter. I went to fix the light, and I fixed it, but all the lights went out in the car, every single light. So I had to deal with that. Thankfully, it was just a fuse. That's what happens when people leave me alone for a few days. Did they have Google Street View back in? No, they didn't. All right, so let me play an intro. I'll be right back. Good to see everybody. Be right back. So we're back. Let's see what's going. Southern Gal's in here. Where's Southern Gal? Let's see here. Southern Gal's right there. Hey, Southern Gal, how are you? Good to see you. I saw something in here from Chibby too about the Leafs. The Leafs lost. Yeah, the Leafs lose all the time, man. I just did that too. I just went. So Toronto was actually the second. The Maple Leafs have the second most Stanley Cups. It's obviously the Canadians first. They have, I think, twice as much as them. But we have John Paul Hansen's in here. Good to see John Paul. Good to see Southern Gals in here. I think I missed your live last night. Sorry about that. I was driving all over God's creation last night. I was just everywhere last night. So the service in my car lately sucks. So I couldn't get in there, but I did watch some of the replay, I think. John Paul's in here too. Good to see John Paul Hansen. Charlie Manson's in here. How is Quad feeling? How's Tracy feeling? Let me hide my face. There we go. But it's good to see everybody. Let's see here. Been watching football. Yeah, Arkansas lost by 2 points. Alabama won, so that's all I care about. So Farqu's in here. Good to see Farq. All right, so let's see if we can figure this out. So I think it was 2 years ago now. I did the first. I wanted to do a little bit more on this here, but there's been so much true crime shit going on that I haven't had a chance. But I did the first installment of what they call the Princes. I call the Princes in the Tower. So let me see here. Hold on a second here. All right, college ball is going on right now. Yes. Who am I watching now? Stanford and Florida State. But I got it on pause because yeah, I was hoping you guys would beat who'd you play? I forget now who you guys play, but I was hoping you guys. So we did the first installment of The Princess in the Tower, and this happened let's see, all the way back to about the 15th century. And the guy in question right now is this guy right here. This is Richard III. Now, I think it was, hold on a second. It was, I think 2012. Pretty sure it was 2012. Yeah, 2012. Okay, so they found this guy here in a car park in 2012, and they've been looking for him forever, since I think 1972, all the way back to 1972. They had a commission to try to find him. I mean, this is over 500 years ago, so I mean, I'm pretty sure they knew where he was right up until, they lost him, and then, changes in the landscape and all of that stuff, they lost him again. So they finally found him in, I think it was 2012. Let's hold on a second here. Well, technically, when he died, that was the kind of the end to the War of the Roses. But yes, he was definitely involved in that. But they did find him. So hold on a second. Let me get out of this here. Go here. All right, so Richard III's body was discovered in September 2012 beneath a car park in Leicester, England, during an archaeological dig. But they were looking for him for a while. They pretty much knew where he was. It's really hard to find. It's literally like a needle in a haystack. So the remains were confirmed to be those of Richard III in early 2013 after extensive scientific and genealogical testing. So this is him here. And you could tell right by the bones here that there's a pretty good sized curvature in the spine here. I'm going to play a little bit of a video bit in a minute with this here because this guy here. Anyways, so they discovered him in archaeological excavation led by the University of Leicester in collaboration with the Richard III Society. And they've been, like I said, they were looking for him since, I don't know, 72. But they finally found him right where he was supposed to be, the former Greyfriars Friary Church site in September 2012. And the reason why this is important for me, anyways, because, like I said, I've been kind of this historical buff since I can remember. And this is important for the Princess in the Tower thing because everybody's been trying to blame him for the disappearance of the Princess in the Tower. So what we're going to do here is we'll go back to, hold on a second here. We're going to go back to this here. I think it's interesting. To some, it may be boring, but I think it's fairly interesting. So let's go here. So this is King Richard III here. And the unfortunate thing is, this is towards the ending of the Wars of the Roses, and this was House of York. So in order to understand this whole dynasty here of the York, you have to go all the way back to, let's go all the way back to this guy right here, Edward III. So Edward III had a whole bunch of kids, and that's not not a lot of people did that. A lot of people, the atrocity rate for children, and you would be doing something if you had a couple of kids that survived into adulthood. But he was lucky. He had, I forget how many kids he had, but he had a lot. The guy that was supposed to succeed him was his son, the Black Prince. But unfortunately, the Black Prince died. And this is during the, what they call the 100 Years' War, where England was basically fighting France for dominancy over France. So this guy here and the Black Prince were basically over in France for decades fighting the French for what they call the 100 Years' War between England and France. However, when the Black Prince died and then Edward III died, the crown went down to Richard II. Now, Richard II was born in a really bad time because the population of England had enough of the wars and the taxation and all of that stuff. So he kind of inherited a pretty bad economy, and people were pissed off. And he kind of squashed this whole revolt that was going on at the time. And he was actually pretty young at this time. But anyways, he turned out to be a pretty horrible king too. A lot of people didn't like him because he tried ruling like some of the older kings did, and he thought he was the supreme chief, the supreme king, in charge of everybody. Whatever he said goes. So he was actually deposed, and this is the start. Right after him, this is when the War of the Roses pretty much started, because his cousin Henry of Bolingbroke actually usurped him and took over the throne. And this is basically when the War of the Roses started. This is the time. So going through this time here, you have the Yorkists here who are in power, and then you go to the Lancastrians here. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen Game of Thrones, but I'm pretty sure the Game of Thrones is based off of this whole warring faction here. In the Game of Thrones, the Starks were pretty much the Yorks, and I'm pretty sure the Lannisters were significantly Lancastrian. But anyways, That was more fictitious than this here, but this is real life here. So we're going to go now to Henry Bolingbroke. He had a son too. He died. I think he died from natural cause. I think he was very ill, and it went down to Henry V. Now Henry V basically was the guy who went into France and basically kicked France's ass. I mean, he went in there, did what he had to do. He didn't last long either, but he literally, this is when the 100 Years' War was heavily English dominant, like they were dominating the French. That didn't last very long, but he actually won. I think it was the Battle of, I forget the name of the battle, but he was victorious there, but he died of dysentery. And then the throne passed down to this guy here, Henry VI, which was his son. But this guy here, Henry VI, is what starts this whole thing, this whole War of the Roses thing. Henry VI was mentally incompetent, to put it that way. Agincourt, there you go. Thank you. I wanted to say Cressy, but I know it was later than that. So, anyways, this is kind of like a historical thing, because this is when the War of the Roses start. So he was really young when he got the throne. He was Henry V's son, so I forget how old he actually was, but he was basically the throne went to the barons, the nobles at the time, to a protectorate until he was able to actually rule by himself. But that was the last thing England wanted, was for him to rule by himself, because he did a terrible job, by all accounts, anyways. So Henry V was actually defeated in battle by, I think it was Edward IV's father, Richard of York, and he literally ended up becoming king. And now you go from Lancastrian to York here. You go from Henry VI to Edward IV. Now, Edward IV defeated Henry VI forces in one of the bloodiest battles in England ever. I think that was the Battle of Taunton, and he took power in 1461. All right, so here we are with, basically, we're in the middle of the Wars of the Roses here. We have, if you notice, the line goes from Lancastrian back to York, and then back to Lancastrian again, and then back to York. Significantly, the 30 Years' War of the Roses. So the reason why this is important for this find in 2012 is because Edward IV was, in all accounts, a pretty good king. He did quite a bit, but he also defeated a lot of the Lancastrians, and he thought he kind of had gotten rid of all of them, and he did for the most part. One of the people here that's not mentioned a lot is Margaret Beaufort, but she'll be a key player here, down here in the House of Tudor here pretty soon. But so Edward IV took over, basically defeating Henry VI, and he literally put Edward VI in the Tower of London. He didn't end up killing him at first. He just put him in the Tower of London, which came back to haunt him, because Edward IV married she was technically a noble woman, but she technically wasn't a high noble. So he kind of got in trouble for that. The problem is that Edward IV died really young. He was the King of England from March 4th, 1961 to October 3rd, 1470. Then again, so he had like 2 reigns, because in that reign he was defeated in battle, and then they put Henry VI back in, but then he took back the throne, and he ended up getting rid of Henry VI finally after that. This is the thing here. When he died, before he died, he had two brothers. He had Clarence and then Richard III, who became Richard III. So before he died, he literally put Richard III in charge of the protectorate until Edward IV's son was old enough to reign by himself. Now, that didn't happen. So what happened is once Edward IV died, Richard III took Edward V, and his younger brother and placed him in the Tower of London. Now, the problem was the Tower of London back then was not supposed to be this, beheading place or a place where you went before you were beheaded. It was basically built to house dignitaries and to put people. It was where you would put people before they got, throned or coronated. But this is where it gets a little tricky, and this is why this is important for what we're going to discuss tonight. Is he originally put him in there, the princes in the tower there, for the coronation. But what he did is he basically turned around and made the son of Edward IV illegitimate, because Edward IV was supposed to marry a different woman, but ended up marrying Elizabeth Woodville, which was back in those days a no-no. So he illegitimized Edward V, and his younger brother, and then disinherited them from ever being able to be on the throne. And that's the problem. So let me go back to the chat. People following this kind of? I've seen enough online that the Game of Thrones is kind of easy to figure out. Yeah, Game of Thrones was kind of mentally incompetent is a nice way to say it. The other person who in here that's not going to be in this session thing is one of the other big players in the 100 Years' War. Anyways, is Joan of Arc, because once King Henry VI took power, she was a dominant force over there in France and basically wrestled power back from England, because Henry VI was so incapable of doing anything. He was literally in a stupor for years and years and years, while everybody else fought around him. So, but anyways, that's besides the point. But she's a big player in this too. But for today's video on this, we're going to go and focus in on this guy here, because we'll go back. Hold on a second. I want to go back to, let's get out of here for a second. Second, I'm going to go back to these. All right. So if you look at this guy, right, we know it's him. Okay, we've known it's him for a long time, but the DNA, one thing you can't do is you can't deny the DNA, because there's a tooth right here. He had a tooth there and some teeth up here. They took some DNA from the tooth there and then some of this leg bone here. So they know it's him. Also, from all accounts, I don't know if you guys have seen some of the movies of old times where, they made him out to be a hunchback. He wasn't a hunchback. He just had a major stenosis in his back. He literally, I don't want to say he was deformed, but he had scoliosis in the back. So, but if you can see the tooth there, they took some DNA from the tooth. and part of the leg bone here. So what's interesting about this guy here is this guy was, I mean, this guy here was hated. I mean, um, whoever killed this guy, we know it was the Tudor army that killed him. But they, back in those days, kings and who usurped kings, they didn't treat him like this. This guy here people hated him. They hated this guy. I mean, I'll go over some of the battle scars, battle wounds that this guy here. I mean, he was hacked at. Part of his head was hacked at. His lower jaw almost completely obliterated. He had post-mortem wounds to his. I mean, they didn't like this guy. So that's telling me that he wasn't a very well liked guy, and that's why I've been trying to follow this. He wasn't very likable, no. Henry Honeybee, pretty great. I'm in remission. That's so awesome. One more chemotherapy to go, and then 2 years of vitamin shots. That's freaking awesome. Getting to the killing the boys in the tower part, very interesting. Yeah, that's why I've been following this. Richard the First is the Lionheart. All right, so let's get back into this here. I do want to play. Hold on a second here. Let me get rid of this here. Yes, that's what we're getting to now. I'm going to go to. Hold on a second. I think I can do it right from here. Hold on a second. It's very confusing because hold on a second. Let me do this here. And I can go back into here. All right, so here's to me, this is the most important person of this time frame. This is Lady Margaret Beaufort. Now, going back to Edward III, we went all the way back to Edward III. If anybody had any type of royal blood in them whatsoever from John of Gaunt, the John of Gaunt line, it's this woman here. However, her line was obliterated from ever holding power, but she still had, if you go all the way back to John of Gaunt, another one of Edward III's sons, she's there. She's of royal lineage. The Tudor line is very weak, and we'll get into that in a second here. But this lady here, like her or hate her, this woman here did everything she possibly could do to get her son to the throne, and she did that, which is amazing. I mean, she, for one, she had Henry VII when she was 13. So just think of that, right? And she had such a terrible pregnancy at 13 that was it for her. It was one kid, and that was it. She was never going to have children again. And she went through hell. Trying to hide Henry VII forever. So anyways, so this lady here is going to come up later, I hope soon. Margaret had a child at 12 or 13 in a dark, damp. Yes, she married this guy, Henry Tudor, who died right after, literally, or even before. I think he actually died before Henry VII was born. So if anybody's seen the Tudor series, it was an awesome series. I enjoyed that quite a bit. So anyways, we're going to go to a little video here. If I can find it. Hold on a second here. And we'll get into the crux of this here in a second. All right, so we'll do this one first. I'll probably get struck for this, but I don't really care. Hold on a second here. Yes, this is all fact. This is some of it isn't, because a lot of it, like I said, during the Tudor line, you had William Shakespeare, who was definitely a Tudor proponent, and we'll get into that too in a second here. But we're going to go see this here. Hold on a second here. All right, so we're going to start with the burial here. This will give you a kind of information. Yeah, this was done a long time ago, 10 years ago. They had a huge, I don't know if you guys saw it, but they had a huge, once they found him and did all of the testing and everything and found out that it was actually him, Richard III, they had a huge pompous ceremony to unbury him, just to bury him again in, so let's take a look at this here.
Death. History hasn't been kind to Richard, vilified by Shakespeare, a monster with a hunchback, murderer of his nephews in the Tower. Then, 3 years ago, a fresh interest in Richard led to the discovery of his suspected remains. And it took 2 Canadians to help solve the mystery. CBC's Red Sharon explains.
For months now.
This guy here is probably one of the luckiest guys alive. First of all, this guy, he's from Canada. He lives in Canada.
Now it's been part of Michael Ibsen's daily routine. The craftsman has been toiling away, hand working the wood in his small shop in North London, building, of all things, a coffin.
Also, Richard III, just a quick note, Richard III, I believe, is the last king of England to die in battle. Every other king after him died of either natural causes or assassination or whatever. But this is the last king. Richard III is the last king to actually die in battle.
There are indications of his Canadian heritage. Yes, that is a Canadian Crown Royal bag, and on the table nearby, an invitation to a burial, the reburial.
The other thing, it's good to see Dino in here. I haven't seen Dino for a while. I hope you're well, buddy. Thank you for the great news last week. I really appreciate that. That was freaking awesome. Dino's an awesome guy. It's always good to see Dino in here. It's good to see everybody in here. But I really appreciate that news. That made my week for sure. We love Heather here, and we're happy she's here, but we're happy that Dino's here too at the same time. I think he's still here. I don't know. Dino's a great guy.
Really, of a king. But this is no...
Even though he lives in a trailer, he's still a good guy.
ordinary king. This king, King Richard III, was the stuff of legend. And oh yes, he just happens to be family.
So they traced the thing is they traced the DNA all the way back to Anne of York, which was Richard III's sister. And we'll get into the differences in the Y chromosome and the mitochondrial from the mother's side soon. But that's where the problems are, is in the Y chromosome. He has a good tooth right here that they got the DNA from. And you can tell this guy was hacked. Like, he wasn't just, I mean, there were kings that were hated by other like William the First, the Conqueror. I mean, he, Harold got basically shot through the eye with an arrow, but they didn't like decapitate him. They literally paraded this guy through the streets too after he was dead. They hated this guy. So that's why I'm at that. My research is, why did they hate this guy so much? And I'm assuming it's because of the whole Princess in the Tower thing. They probably blamed him for doing that. Whether he did it or not, who knows? But that could be one of the reasons why. And Lord Stanley, who actually helped win the Battle of Hastings, the Battle of Bosworth, who helped tutor the Tudor forces, had a son who was fighting for the Yorks. So for him to do that, no, wait a minute. So Lord Stanley, the guy that helped Richard III, kidnapped his son, and threatened to kill his son if he didn't help Richard III win the battle. But Lord Stanley ended up helping the Tudor side in the end.
It was here in the Midlands.
And Lord Stanley was actually married to Margaret Beaufort, so that may be another reason.
On the battlefield at Bosworth during the War of the Roses that he fell. The hunchback, so-called villain king, was cut down on the pointy end of his successor's sword. It's something that now happens.
Jenny's here. Jenny 867 is here. It's good to see Jenny. Good to see Gretchen's here. Dita's here. Yeah, they hated him. They literally, Big Fish is here too. Yes, we love you, Heather. I was just still here looking for a good spot at Water Park for the week. That's fucking funny. Oh.
Happens every Saturday during summertime reenactments.
I will say another thing about English media. You can't trust anything that comes out of English media. You just can't. A lot of it is I go to the historical societies because they might lie, but this is a lot of the stuff comes that I'm getting my information from is right from the horse's mouth kind of. This is right from the people doing the studies, right? Like the people who are doing the DNA, because if you listen to, British media is worse than anything else you can. They will literally lie right to your face just to get a story. So this stuff here, the one thing they can't do is hide the DNA stuff, right? Like it is or it isn't, right? That's just the way it goes. But you got to be careful with, because there's stories that come out all the time. They just had something done about the Ripper there, and what's the other case in England? It's all bullshit. They make stuff up.
As Shakespeare put it, my kingdom for a horse. But Richard had lost his steed in battle, and he fell dead on the ground. The last British king to die on the field of battle in Britain. And for almost 530.
He was trying to honey up to Elizabeth, yeah. Well, that's the reason why Elizabeth I didn't get married, because she knew that if she got married and had a son, they would have just killed her. The last thing she wanted was to have a son, because they would have just, they tried doing it with Queen of Scots. So if she would have had, it's always good to see you, Honeybee. Thank you so much for coming in. Honeybee is amazing. She does amazing freaking work. She's just a tremendous person. Anytime Honeybee's in here, it's just such a great night. We love you, Honeybee. I hope you're well. Keep up the good work. All right, let's get back to this.
30 years, this is where he lay, downtown Leicester. In a car park with people.
So you just think at one time, right, there was nothing here. This was all nothing. There was a Friars Church here or something like that, but other than that, this is basically where they threw him. They literally just threw him. They didn't bury him. They threw him in this hole. People
driving over him, parking on him. dripping oil from their motors over the last resting place of the monarch.
This is where we found him. So on the very first day when we were excavating,
Dr. Turi King says the team from the University of Leicester couldn't believe it.
How appropriate to have the name King.
I know
You must have thought
the
you hit
number
the
of
jackpot.
people, the number of people who've said that to me is like, your surname, you were destined to do this.
Back in 2012, thanks to funding from the Richard III Society, they decided to try and find their king, believed buried on the former site of the Grey Friars Church, but it had long since been destroyed. On the very first day, digging for mere hours,
I mean, they literally knew where he was. Then they didn't know where he was. Then they knew where he was. They were just off by a couple of blocks or something like that. And then it took from like 1972, I think it was 1972, early 70s, and then till 2012 to actually dig and find him. And they were lucky to find him because, you know, this, it's not easy to find people like this. And it's not easy to, I mean, this is, you're talking 500-600 years here.
on a renewed hunt for Richard's remains, they stumbled on the king. At least they thought it was him. There was the telltale curvature of the spine.
It was an extraordinary discovery.
All right, I'm going to try to pronounce this. Hello, Brian. He know best. He know best. Good to see you. Chat, this is my friend Brian. He's trying to build his channel. He's a good guy. Let me know if you want to wrench. That way I can throw his channel in here. Or he can throw his channel in here. Good to see you. Good to see Jenny, 8675309. Yes, we definitely, Honeybee is amazing. Amazing person. Yeah, I don't mind promoting good channels for sure. So Peggy O is in here. Peggy O's here. Good to see Peggy O. We're just going over, just doing a few things different this week. I'm trying to figure out this Richard III thing. Thank you, Heather. Thank you so much. Yeah, I will subscribe too for sure. Okay, so this is just church floor level here, so you can see how far down this guy was. I mean, this, like I said, this is 500 years ago, so he's going to be down a few layers here, but this guy's going to kind of explain. This is definitely not a king's burial here. This is basically just like you know, you probably couldn't fit a person in here.
That stunned all of us.
It was enough to attract the attention of the world press, and the one king's suspected remains were destined to make Dr. King famous. You see, not only does she have a background in archaeology, Dr. Turi King is also an expert in genetics and ancient DNA.
How does it feel presiding over probably one of the greatest royal mysteries in recent history?
Yeah, it's been a really amazing project. Very high pressure, a lot of public interest, but really amazing project to be involved in. I'm really lucky.
Luck had already played a huge role just finding the remains. But now science would take over. Richard III had no descendants, but mitochondrial DNA was passed down through his sister, Anne of York. If that DNA could be extracted, in this case from a royal molar,
Finally. Right.
looking for that needle in a royal haystack, a match to a living relative would prove beyond a shadow of a doubt these were King Richard III's remains. By the way, Dr. Turi King.
Yeah, this is why this is kind of important because, but I figured it out yesterday or was it Friday? There's three ways to legitimize a king, right? I always thought it was the bloodline. Like the bloodline is, I always thought was pretty important. But if you look back if you look back through, and not just English history, but because I do a lot of Russian history with the Tsars and the Romanovs and all of that stuff. But if you do, conquest is another one, right? England was found on conquests, right? You go from the Roman conquest of England, then you go to the Saxon conquest of England, then you go to the Viking conquest. So conquest is important. Bloodline doesn't matter. If you conquest something, get rid of the current regime, you're basically king, regardless of bloodline. So I don't think it really has a lot to do with the moderns like Elizabeth II, now Charles, but the bloodline, if you follow the bloodline all the way back to William I, the Conqueror in England, which is centuries ago, it doesn't make sense. There is no bloodline. It's not there. And I'm going to explain that in a couple minutes here.
Also happens to be Canadian. Growing up as a young girl on the West Coast, a graduate of the University of British Columbia, she even has her roots backpack to prove it. A backpack good enough for a king.
Richard has traveled in the bag.
He has, when I've had to take samples to.
Yeah, the Romanovs are a little different. Romanovs, after Ivan the Terrible and the time of troubles, the last thing you wanted, if you were like a cousin or a brother to the Tsar, you literally had to run for your life because you would be dead. I mean, they didn't want in Russia. It was all about bloodline. Michael had a son; it went to his son, but if Michael had a brother or a cousin, they were dead. They didn't want any relative around because they could usurp the throne and that would be it. So Michael, the first Romanov after Ivan, had relatives that were killed immediately. They were annihilated immediately. It went from Michael to his son, and then his son. So England's a little different.
To various places.
Yeah.
He's gone in this with me because I daren't put him in my luggage to go in planes. He comes with me in my bag. Hello.
Today, that same bag is carrying something else.
For your birthday.
Birthday cake for Michael. You see, not only have they become good friends, Michael is the missing genetic royal link.
There's another one too. There's a lady from Australia, I think, that's also a cousin, distant cousin, but it goes all the way back to Anne of York. And the reason why they had no last names. Last names were basically where they were from or whatever. But you'll see Anne of York, Richard of York. They were Yorkists. They were definitely not Lancastrians. And that's why they called it the War of the Roses. The red rose being Lancastrian and the white rose being the Yorks. I found out subsequently, though, after that the roses had nothing to do with it. If you look back far enough, the roses were just kind of like a symbol or whatever, but it really didn't have much to do with it. This all goes back to the Plantagenets, all the Plantagenet dynasty.
To King Richard III, they were looking for.
I am a 17th generation nephew.
So that's nephew 17 times removed?
Yes, yeah.
It was through his mother Joyce that the mitochondrial DNA link.
Peggy is awesome. Peggy O's in here. Peggy's got a great channel. I hope you're feeling better. I know you weren't feeling good the other week there. Always good to see Peggy in here. I try to make it to your live as much as I possibly can. I don't know what's been going on this week here with service, but I haven't had the greatest service while I've been driving around all over the place. But the moderns are German. So after William I, it's always, it's easy to know when the English kings died. English kings died in 1066. All of the English kings were dead. After the Battle of Hastings, after William the Conqueror, who was technically a Dane or a Viking, every king and queen from England was a foreigner.
was found.
So there am I with my brother and sister.
Right.
Right down to the moderns, like the Windsors. The Windsors had to change their name to Windsor because they had German surnames. So back in World War One, when Germany was a threat to Britain and Russia, technically they changed their name to the Windsors so they wouldn't have a German last name. So they're technically German.
This is my mother, and this is the line all the way back to Anne of York.
You have royal blood running through your veins.
Well, I'm not sure about the blood, maybe a bit of DNA.
Well, it's all together, isn't it?
It's all together, yeah.
It would take this Canadian connection to answer the question once and for all.
In fact, World War One, I always say, is just a battle of spoiled freaking brats. They were all related. The Tsar of Russia, George of England, and William of Germany. They're all related. They're all related to Victoria.
Give me lots of cheek cells from which I can
And they were spoiled little freaking brats, and they just couldn't get along. And millions of people dead just because of spoiled little brats.
extract DNA from.
Michael provided Dr. King with a DNA swab. A microscopic comparison soon confirmed the genetic royal link.
And I got up and I did a little dance around the lab because I just thought, oh my goodness.
This is unbelievable.
As you can see, they did indeed.
So this is where the DNA goes back to, and it's a long way back.
Match one another.
And then she told the whole world.
My favorite moments of this whole project was actually telling Michael the results, sitting him down and saying, look, there's.
So this line here is the mitochondrial, though. The most reliable is the mother's gene, right? The mother's, and I don't know a ton about DNA, but I do know that the most reliable is the mother, because the mother passes down the gene through everybody. The father just passes down through the sons.
A DNA match. That was a really big moment for me, actually.
Oh, Canada.
Oh, Canada. Yeah.
It's all led to a royal explosion of sorts.
My young cousin, Richard, Duke of Gloucester.
There's a new interpretive center in Leicester, where people can learn, for example, that King Richard was the first to introduce weights and measures, or to translate books like the Bible into English, or that he died a rather gruesome death.
So he had
This guy here, and that's another way they knew it was him, because they have historical records going all the way back to the Battle of Bosworth about the brutality of his unaliving. And he had all of they looked at his skull, they looked at his bones. He had all of the battle scars that were written down. This guy, they hated this guy, literally. And Henry Tudor, his army was much smaller than Richard III. So it's strange how that happened. But
quite a number of injuries, eh?
He did. He had 11 wounds, but 9 of those were on his head.
11 wounds, 9 on his head. Just think about that. You can only take so many blows to the head.
Somebody really wanted him dead.
Yeah.
No shit. I mean, that's wow.
Yeah, really.
And at the Anglican Cathedral,
Okay, so this is a medieval foundation, dates from the 1200s.
where he will once again be laid.
That's telling me that there's a problem, right? You can do the same thing nowadays when you go to, hear about a crime scene where it was, overkill, right? That's usually a sign of passion or a sign of just dislike, right? This was a brutal thing here.
to rest.
I mean, all battles are brutal, right? But kings don't usually, like, even Alexander the Great didn't really do a lot to the kings that he conquered. He obviously killed them, but he gave them a little bit more of respect. I think one battle from Alexander the Great, he said only a king can kill a king. And he actually had the people who killed the king killed because they killed him before he killed him. So I know that, there's lots of history where kings do get kind of annihilated, but this guy here, Richard III, you could tell that there was something about him that they didn't like him at all.
They have just finished spending over $3 million, close to £1.5 million on his new tomb.
The tomb is going to be through the screen.
But this is a computer-generated model. They wouldn't let us see the real thing. The very Reverend David Monteith says it's all about privacy for the workers.
But it's all kept completely top secret at the moment.
It has nothing to do, insists the dean, with the reported check cut by a British TV channel.
Okay, let's get out of this here because this is going to take all night if I stay in here. I just wanted to show that there because... all right, so we're going to go here now. Hold on a second. It's always good to see everybody. I'm so glad everybody's here. So glad that Southern Gal is here. We got Hebby in the house. It's so good to see Hebby. I was really worried about you last week. All right, so here we go with the DNA results, right? We got, okay, so the DNA results showed a perfect whole mitochondrial genome match between skeleton 1 of the Greyfriars site and Michael Ibsen, who was the guy, the Canadian that we just saw, and a single base difference with Wendy Duldig. She's the other person that they found to compare the DNA. I think she's from Australia or something like that. This was not at all unexpected given the number of generations between them, and it's consistent with all three of them being related in this genealogical time span. So, and I'll let this speak for itself. So this is where the problem is. And it's in the Y chromosome on the male line. Hold on a second here. Let me.
So I was interested to see whether or not there was a genetic link between Richard and male line relatives who are alive today. Now, we always knew at the outset that there might not be a genetic link, and that's because we know from previous research that I and others have done that you get the possibility of non-paternity. So this is where the father, the biological father, is not who you think it is, and that's going to break the Y chromosome link. And we know that there's a percentage for that hovers around the 1% to 2% mark. Still, we thought that this would.
So the maternal line goes back to the mom. The maternal line, you can't. It's almost. I mean, it's possible, but I mean, you know who your daughter is if you're the mom, right? It's not like you can change that. The problem is the Y chromosome, and there's a break, and we've known that. I mean, there's been rumors of that. Back then, actually, there was rumors that Edward IV was not biological son of his father. So there's a break in the genealogical father line somewhere. So there's a few different situations there. There's a few different so if it's on the York side, then both families are illegitimate, if you know what I mean, the Yorks and the Tudors. There you go.
Be an interesting thing to do, just bearing in mind that given the number of generations that there might not be a match on their Y chromosomes.
Richard had no living descendants, so we can't trace either mitochondrial DNA or Y chromosome DNA directly from Richard. But what we can do in search of a Y chromosome is to go up a tree and then back down again. And that allowed us to identify a number of people by going up from...
Hold on, so let me go back a second and see this. So you have John, Duke of Somerset, right? John of Gaunt there. I think that's who that is. Then you have Margaret Beaufort, right? That's the mother of Henry VII, and then the Tudors. But there's John of Gaunt there. So this is a very... thin line here, right? If anything at all. And then now if you start getting rid of the York line, from the break in the Y chromosome. If somebody's not the father here, then now both sides, York and the Lancastrians, are illegitimate. Wouldn't that be something?
Number of people by going up from Richard to Edward.
So there's Edward III, right? He had a whole bunch of sons. Some of them didn't make it, but the Black Prince for sure.
The third, and then back down.
There's John, John of Gaunt, Henry V, Henry IV, Henry VI, but that's the break there, right?
Down again to John of Gaunt, and that goes on through the Earls and Dukes of Somerset, and eventually to the Dukes of Beaufort.
So doing the Y chromosome work, I found that there wasn't a link between Richard III and the male line relatives who are alive today. So clearly, though the genealogy says that they're male line related, the DNA is telling us that there has been a non-paternity or break in that Y chromosome chain.
DNA doesn't lie, bro. You can say it all you want. You can say yes, 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 but that's not what the DNA is saying.
Between the 5th Duke of Beaufort, who is their common male line.
And here's the thing. I'm starting to wonder if that's why Richard III did that. I wonder if he knew that the York line was illegitimate too, and that's why he had the Princess in the Tower prisoned. Just saying, maybe he knew that, and that's why he did that.
Ancestor and Richard III, which is 19 generations between them.
The fact that we have a break means just that. We have a break. It doesn't mean that the skeleton isn't Richard, because what we have is the very strong evidence triangulated with 2 living day relatives with the mitochondrial DNA. So that in itself.
So this guy here, this is Richard III here. This is his spine here. That's the one wound there. That was the one of the fatal ones. I hope they show that here.
Is very strong, compelling evidence that the skeleton is Richard III. The break, however, does raise other questions, more of a historical nature than is this skeleton Richard? Now, depending which link in the chain is broken, and of course there's a possibility that there could be more than one break, this asks questions about the Plantagenets and indeed the claims to the throne of both the houses of York.
So it could all be just fake. Wouldn't that be so?
And Lancaster. The majority of links in the chain, 13 out of the 19, do not affect royal descent at all. Additionally, one does indirectly. Now, of the remaining 5 links, the critical one is between Edward III and his son John of Gaunt. If the break occurs here...
See, that's the question. Okay, so here's Edward III, here's his son, John of Gaunt, right? And the thing is that everybody knows that in these times, even today probably, the king can sleep with whoever he wants. I mean, how many wives did Henry VIII have? I mean, they sleep. It was almost a given that they were going to sleep around, right? But the other thing is these guys were always out at battle too. So how do you know that the women didn't sleep around either? It's definitely possible.
Then this asks questions about the legitimacy.
Sometimes the husbands were out fighting wars. I mean, some of them were on crusades. Now, Richard I was on a crusade for 3. He only spent 6 months in England. The rest of the time, he was out either on crusade in Jerusalem or in France. He hated England, literally. And that goes all the way down through Edward III was over in France the most of the time. So who knows what was going on with the wives?
Of John's son Henry IV and his subsequent heirs, Henry V and Henry VI. In addition, since the Tudor dynasty was descended also from John of Gaunt, there's an indirect influence over the Tudors' claim to the throne. Likewise, if the break is in the part of the chain from Edward III to Richard III, this would also ask questions about the legitimacy of the claims of both Richard and, of course, his brother Edward. But we have absolutely no proof for that. As I've said, there are 19 links in this chain. 5 of them could affect royal descent. So statistically, the chances are it actually has no effect at all, but it would be worthwhile investigating further to try and understand more fully where that breakage occurred.
Well, here's, if you want to do some research, here's the Edward III. And, this is basically, let me get out of this here. Hold on a second. We'll get back to our regular programming at some point. I do want to, hold on, Edward III. Let's see, which one is a good one here? Let's do, this one here. Here, let's hold on a second here. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is Edward III. Here's Edward the Black Prince here. There's Richard II here. There's the Yorkist line. You can follow this all the way down. Edward Mortimer, all the way down to Richard, Duke of York here, Elizabeth, and Henry VII. So this is going from Edward III all the way down to the marriage of the Wars of the Roses here, Henry VII and Elizabeth of York. So when Richard III died in battle, Henry VII, actually Margaret Beaufort, Henry VII's mother, promised Elizabeth Woodville to have, her son marry Elizabeth Woodville's daughter, to unite the two houses, the Yorks and the Lancastrians. So, but this lineage here goes all the way down. But if you look in here, the problem with the Lancastrian line is this here, right in here. And if anybody had any legitimacy to any type of, bloodline here, it would be Margaret Beaufort. But this whole line of succession here was denounced to never be able to have the throne. I might post this whole thing, but this is Duke. So Edward IV had 2 brothers. He had George, Duke of Clarence here. He had Richard III. He had a couple of daughters here, but in reality, it always passed down to the son or one of the sons. So Duke of Clarence was actually drowned in a vat of wine. So he died before Edward IV. And that's the thing. They had such a right to claim here. They had the 3 brothers, all of these sons, and somehow this guy, Henry VII, who was in exile over in France, ended up winning it for the Lancastrians. It's so weird. All right, so there you go. All right, so let's get out of here. So I thought that'd be interesting. But that's it. We got a break in the line there. So All right, so we'll go here since I'm here anyways. We'll get over to the true crime stuff here now. If you want me to go into a little bit deeper dive than that, let me know. I'll try to do a third installment of that. All right, so let's do this here. I'm going to go to here. Let's go to Rex Heuermann, shall we? I hope it doesn't bore everybody. It's I've been doing English research for years, literal years. I think it's interesting, especially if it's all fake, because it's looking that way. It's all fake. All of these kings and queens after Edward III are all fake. They didn't deserve any of it. So it's so weird. All right, so we're going to get into the Rex Heuermann thing. This is Vinnie Politan investigates the case against Rex Heuermann. We all know he's kind of being accused of unaliving several female people. So here we go. Thank you guys for being patient with that. Appreciate it.
I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the case of the accused Gilgo Beach, Long Island serial killer. It's a case that has taken decades to develop and one where many never thought there would be a trial, but it's going to.
One of these days, I'll do a Russian history too with the Romanovs. I find the Romanovs to be very interesting too. Right now, in the historical part of my history, I'm going back to the Punic Wars in right around 200 BCE, 250 BCE, somewhere around there.
To happen. Here's the story.
The battle of the Romans and the Carthagins.
Along the windswept shores of Long Island, a dark secret slept beneath the sand. For more than a decade,
Catherine the Great is probably one of my favorite rulers of all time. I'd love to do a deep dive into, Peter the Great, then the succession down to Sophie, and then down to her, Catherine the Great. Absolutely. Catherine the Great was actually German.
Remains of young women, escorts, mothers, daughters were unearthed near Gilgo Beach. Their lives silenced and their stories buried. The community was haunted by whispers of a calculating predator, someone who blended into suburban life.
Did Shibby see the Grand Slam last night? That was freaking awesome. I was jumping for joy, man. I thought the Toronto Maple Leaf, the Toronto Blue Jays were going to win that. Then all of a sudden, I almost drove off the road. I was so Grand Slam. You can't make this stuff up, man.
While carrying out unimaginable acts of violence. Investigators pieced together a chilling puzzle: burner phones, burlap.
Hold on a second. I want to go back a second here. Look at this beach, right? I've been down to these beaches before down here in Long Island. I don't think I've ever been to Gilgo Beach, but I've been along these beaches here. It's just this is where, like, this other than, like, once you get below Virginia, these beaches are absolutely gorgeous. But hold on a second, let me play this
along the windswept shores of Long Island.
But if you're out here at night, right, and I don't know what it is about this place here, but if you're walking along this beach here at night, especially along these this hedge stuff here, it is pitch black. You can't see anything, even if it's clear, stars, moon, you name it. So him hiding bodies in here, I can understand, because you wouldn't even see them. It's so dark here. And I don't know whether it's because it's an island, but it's there's no lights here for one. but you would think that you'd get some, illumination from the stars and the moon and stuff like that, but it's pitch black here. You can't see anything.
Island, a dark secret slept beneath the sand. For more than a decade, the remains of young women, escorts, mothers, daughters were unearthed near Gilgo Beach. Their lives silenced and their stories buried. The community was haunted by whispers of a calculating predator, someone who blended into suburban life while carrying out unimaginable acts of violence. Investigators pieced together a chilling puzzle: burner phones, burlap wrappings, and digital trails leading back to an unsuspecting home.
And this is what's going to happen here in this case, right? All of these inmates, prisoners that have been prosecuted for any type of SW crime in the past, they're going to start coming out of the woodwork now, because they're going to start saying, we want our DNA tested against this stuff. I'm telling you, these people are crazy, right? So they already have John Bittroff doing this stuff here, but I can guarantee you there's going to be more. And they have every right to, because I can guarantee you there's at least a couple of those guys in prison cells right now that have been falsely accused of some of these crimes.
The suspect, once seen as ordinary, was anything but. In court, prosecutors describe a monster hiding in plain sight. Neighbors recall a man who waved, smiled, and kept...
Oh my God, we love Heather here so much. She's just so... It's just the news last Saturday night, the last live anyways, it was just... it was the greatest news I've heard in a long time. It was just so awesome.
His secrets buried deep. As the trial looms, Gilgo Beach remains more than a crime scene. It is a graveyard of innocence and a reminder of how evil can live quietly among us, masked by the comfort of normalcy.
I remember when this story was breaking, when all these bodies were turning up on Gilgo Beach, and it was shocking. And it was a case like, what's going on here? Like, is there a serial killer on the loose? We need to catch him. And then all of a sudden, the case went seemingly cold, where there was no activity. And then every once in a while, the people would be drumming up some noise about why isn't anything happening. And then we'd hear, well, someone else is taking over the investigation. Things are going to happen. And still, it took so long. But then finally, we got word from the DA, Ray Tierney. Take a listen.
Did Dee Dee have a live this morning? I didn't see her yesterday morning. I hope she's okay. Imagine that being the last faves you see. You're out in front of Dee Dee's house now. She has the curtains open a bit. I hope Mustang's well. I hope you're okay, Mustang. Feel free to throw your channels here in the chat.
Office filed a superseding indictment charging the defendant Yerman with a seventh charged murder in the second degree for the murder of Valerie Mack, which occurred.
These poor people. This just sucks.
In 2000. I remind everyone that all of these cases and all of these murders are just allegations, and we look forward to proving them in court. As I've previously stated, the work of the Gilgo Task Force is ongoing and continuing.
And the thing is, like, I usually don't, I guess I do. I usually don't get on law enforcement a lot, but when you see, we're going to go over the Sandra Birchmore case tonight too. I just want people to come out sometimes and say, okay, enough of the bullshit, right? This case here could have been solved a long time ago. They had all of the information, right? And the reason why this case wasn't solved a long time ago is because of corruption, period. They had a whole bunch of screwballs involved in this case here. And for who knows what reason, they dropped the ball and they looked the other way. This was corruption at its finest. They should say that. They don't. They just gloss over the fact that people were just looking the other way. And, if they would have solved this case way back. It probably, who knows how many people they would have saved.
And when I said that, I meant what I said. The defendant is now charged with the murder of 7 young women. Sandra Castilla from 1993, Valerie Mack from 2000, Jessica Taylor from 2003, Maureen Brainerd Barnes from 2007.
They had a witness. I forget who it was. They had a witness who was basically the, lack of a better word, the pimp for one of the victims. I forget which one it was. He literally fought the guy. He literally got in a fist fight with this guy. He gave him the exact description of who this was, and they just didn't do anything. He got the truck. They had the truck from him. They had the size. He was an ogre. It's just this case should have been solved, I think, 2010, 11, right after they found these people.
Melissa Bartholomew from 2009, Megan Waterman from 2010 in June, and Amber Costello from September of 2010.
It took a while to get all 7 of those charges, superseding indictment after superseding indictment, but now you hear it.
Right, it's the roommate. But wasn't they I think it was the one that wasn't that the one that kind of took him for a ride the first time? It was some sort of a Craigslist thing. I may be thinking of a different one.
And he's going to be tried for all 7 at the same time. But it took so long to get there, which brings us to our first question in our investigation tonight, which is an important one, right? How did they catch the accused killer? Right? It took long. Why did it take so long? But how did they end up catching the accused killer? Here to help answer that question, forensic death investigator Joseph Scott Morgan. He's also the host of the extremely popular Body Bags with Joseph Scott Morgan podcast. Also joining us, former New York police officer, retired police lieutenant, commanding officer of the Nassau County Police K-9 unit, Mike Gould is with us. Great to have both of you here. Before we start talking about it, I want to listen to a little bit more from the DA because he has provided some of the details through the years. Let's take a listen.
The murderer, the defendant, Heuermann, he got a...
This guy right here, Rodney Harrison, is a hero. We need more cops like him out there. Let's put it that way. He went above and beyond to get this guy.
He's a...
and I think they literally fired him.
He got a cell phone and a burner phone, which is prepaid and anonymous. And for each of the murders, he got an individual burner phone, and he used that to communicate with the victims. Then shortly after the death of the victims, he then would get rid of the burner phone. And right away in December of 2012, FBI CAST analysts, special agents with the CAST unit of the FBI, they immediately began looking at that cell site data. They compared the victims' phones with the burner phones, and they immediately honed in on some similarities, specifically in the Massapequa Park area. And they looked at an area of a confluence of 4 cell towers. And they realized that this had significance because the perpetrator of these crimes was probably located within this area at or around the times of the murder. The FBI also managed to do that for an area in Midtown Manhattan. There was a hair recovered from Maureen Brainerd Barnes from a belt buckle that was around her legs. With regard to Megan Waterman, there were 3 hairs recovered from her, one from around her head area, one from around her leg area in the burlap, and then there was one caught in between the tape. And that was recovered. Amber Costello also had a significant hair that was recovered during the time of the recovery. There was an abandonment sample obtained from the defendant via the pizza box, and the pizza that was in the pizza box, a DNA profile was obtained from that pizza. Subsequent to the defendant's arrest, a buccal swab was taken of the defendant. A DNA profile was obtained from that buccal swab, and the buccal swab of the defendant matches the DNA profile from that of the abandonment sample in the pizza box. A first-generation Chevrolet Avalanche with a very unique feature that was between it's a pickup truck, so it was between the cab and the bed, and that was identified. Again, that was back in 2010. But it wasn't until March of 2022 that database was searched by the task force, and this individual was identified. That individual was Rex Heuermann, the defendant.
All right. I'll start with you, Mike Gould. This case, like, for more than a decade, we were waiting, but it seems a lot of the information was there in the beginning. If you're talking about cell phones and a very unique vehicle.
Yeah, Vinny, thanks for having me. Yeah, so this is something very familiar to me. I'm very familiar with Gilgo Beach. In fact, ironically, I used to train police dogs all along there because it's desolate, and it's a great place to train.
This is DNA from multiple. Yeah, it's crazy.
Dogs, particularly cadaver dogs. So that was in the late 90s, of course. But what happened in this case, since 2010, when the first victim was found by a cadaver dog, one of my colleagues in the Suffolk County Police Department, who was really terrific dog handler and had a great dog, was able to find the first victim. So, but then it went cold. There was a lot of allegations of police corruption. A police chief out here got fired and went to jail, not necessarily tied to this case, but he was implicated. He was the suspect of that. There was the district attorney. He went to jail. So there was a lot of things. This new task force, fortunately, a new police commissioner, a new DA, and they really reinvigorated the investigation. But if it wasn't for the cadaver dog that found them, they wouldn't have that evidence. So it was really tremendous what the work has done by the task force in the last few years of putting all this digital evidence together.
You know, Joseph Scott Morgan, so it seems that they use this, the Chevy Avalanche in coordination with some of the cell phone data, and they kind of zero in on this guy. And then, of all things,
they just can't say it. You know, they just can't do it. They can't. Even if their predecessors were dirt bags, they can't do it. They can't go against their own. It's so sad. It just is, because it's corruption. That's what it is. You don't say maybe. No, they were corrupt. Just say it. So awful.
City of New York to positively identify the suspect in their eyes. Of course, it was pizza crust.
Famous phrase? I don't know. Yeah, so yeah, you got to have the pie, man. And yeah, you know, you think about this abandonment sample, you know, where it's anybody who's game on at that point in time. You leave this behind, and of course, you know, this is kind of unpleasant to say, I know, forgive me, but you know, when you eat something, you're going to deposit you know, spittle on the crust that's remaining.
This guy here thought he had it made. This guy here thought that nothing was ever going to come of this. He was probably planning his other, you know, another one soon. That's what happened here. He had no clue they were onto it, because he felt like he was in the clear. He was, and who would blame him? I mean, the previous administration did such a terrible job in this case.
Assuming that that's where they got the sample from, as opposed to touch DNA, and then they go in and they do the buccal mucosal swab to confirm that. You know, once
as soon as I get out of here, I'll subscribe to his channel for sure. The only reason why I'm covering this case here, for one, it's true crime, and two, you know, once I get involved in these cases here, especially with the SKer thing, I bump into other SKer things and other crime stuff. So I got involved in the this case here through another case years ago. But you know, it's one of those things where you think that it's going to end at some point and it doesn't. Right? Back in 2014, I thought they had this guy. Like, how could they not? They had all the information. And here we are in 2025, right? And they still so weird.
Once you have that foundation of those DNA building blocks, you can go out and you can create a more robust case. You go back in and you recover these hair samples that are familial hair samples, and then you begin to think about this in terms of genetic genealogy.
He's got a good lawyer, though. I'm telling you right now, he's got a really good lawyer.
You know, which we've heard a lot about over the past few years, haven't we, Ben? And so you build a case out with that. And here's the thing, along with the cellular data that you have, which deals in numbers, obviously, because you're pinging, you have specific locations, and then these astronomical numbers that you're talking about with DNA fingerprinting.
All it takes is one juror, man.
I'm not saying it's a slam dunk. However, I think that it's a very difficult hill for the defense to climb.
You know, some of the other things that witnesses have said through the years in identifying the...
Which, in my opinion, I've been saying this for, I don't know, 6 years now. This guy here is going to go down as the most prolific serial killer in New York State history, period.
Truck and the drivers, that it was a very large man. This guy does not like...
I doubt this is going to stop at 7, but I might be wrong. I don't know.
You know, he's not going to disappear in a crowd. He's going to stick out. This guy is huge, and knowing what we know, we have a certain perception of him. But I think that's another part of this case that is very unique and very incriminating, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah. So he was described by a witness as an ogre, 6'6". So right, he stood out. But remember, he was like a very prominent. He lived literally 2 miles, as the crow flies, from the burial sites or the disposal sites. So, and he was a prominent architect. Traveled back and forth to New York from Massapequa Park every day. And, you know, it's kind of eerie to know that this person lived in this kind of bedroom community of Long Island. Went to work every day, and they missed him. There was a lot of theories for the 10 or 12 years that transpired. There was a lot of theories, again, pointing to the...
They didn't miss him. He was right there. They just didn't look. It's easy to miss somebody if you don't look.
The police department pointing to a bunch of different theories, but they never had this. So the police did magnificent. I agree with Joseph. This is a hard, it's a digital scientific case that they have to prove. I think it's going to be a battle of experts when it comes down to the DNA. And so yeah, I think they have a very strong case. The attorney is terrific. Michael Brown is very charismatic. He's like a pit bull.
If I don't have my coffee in the morning when I get up, I'm Andre the Giant ×2. Like, I mean, at that point, I'm just going to go back to sleep. Yes, they caught him. You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it.
A pit bull, so to speak. And so we'll see how it ends up.
Absolutely. All right, guests are sticking around. Coming up next.
Paula is so awesome. She's so great. She texted me. She emailed me first, and I was on the road, so I couldn't. Where the hell was I? I was going to get my coffee, and then she Facebooked me. I was watching the game, and then I emailed her back. She's so awesome. She keeps me on my toes.
What is the significance of the wife and daughter's DNA?
When we initially informed them about their husband, their father, they were shocked.
Donna Adelson.
I kind of want to hear this, and then we'll move on to something else. I just wanted to play this. There's so many cases going on right now. This is going to be, if you like trials, this is probably going to be a good year, 2026.
Courts take care of him.
That's a neighbor of the accused serial killer, and think about being the family of an accused serial killer. What a tough spot that is. I mean, a difficult spot. You know, the accused is behind bars, doesn't have to deal with people in the public on a day-to-day basis, but the family does. And it seems that the family is going to play a role in the trial as well. Let me show you why. We're talking about some DNA evidence that was recovered in this case from the wife and daughter. First, 4 of the victims had DNA.
Okay, so here's the evidence here. I'm glad he broke this down. I got this somewhere here. Victim Valerie Mack, female hair on Mack. So there's a female hair on her. Location inside garbage bags containing this. So she was inside garbage bags. This is her here. This is Valerie Mack. Matching Victoria Human. So Victoria is the daughter, right?
From the suspect's wife or daughter. This is all from the memorandum of law from the state. Begin with the victim, Valerie Mack. Female hair on Valerie Mack inside garbage bags containing the victim.
Don't forget the list, right? Don't forget the, hold on a second. We went over that last week. Hold on. Planning document, right? I'm trying to see if there's I'm pretty sure it's on there somewhere. I'm pretty sure it's on one of the planning documents that he had, the garbage bags. Yes, dispose of box of plastic bags. Well, you spelt it wrong. Plastic BAS to avoid trace. So there you go. There's that.
They matched Victoria, the daughter of the accused killer. Victim Maureen Bernard Barnes, female hair on her, the buckle of her belt restraining her lower body.
Oops. So this is match. So this one here, the evidence here, Marie Bernard Barnes, female hair on Barnes. So this goes back to the mom. This is Asa here.
That hair allegedly matches the suspect's wife, Asa. Victim Megan Waterman, 2 female hairs on her outside the head area and tape in the.
So this is concerning for both sides, because these 2 victims, Megan Waterman, the 2 female hairs on Waterman, go back to Asa Alarup. I'm pretty sure this is more heavily a problem for the defense. But this might, I don't know, might consider to be one juror's, maybe it's Asa that did this, or Asa.
Area of the head, that hair matching, according to the state, the suspect's wife, Asa. Then you've got Amber Costello, female hair on her, tape.
Victoria, so that must be the daughter. Victoria must be the daughter, so I just want to go, hold on a second. I got this downloaded somewhere, but it's so much easier to do it this way. So here's that planning document that I was showing you. There's 3 of them. But right here, burn gloves. This is the dispose of the following: tools and devices, clothes and personal items, drop cloths, wipes and towels, props, toys, wood items, anything that touched what you wore, destroy, and of course the spelling here. I'm pretty sure destroy is spelled with an E and not an I. Destroy book and computer files. You can't do that. Burn gloves, and then here, dispose of box of plastic. Pretty sure that's supposed to say bags right there. So there you go. But this is one of them. And then there's this one here. This is the famous HK 2002-2004 document here. All kinds of different spelling errors here. I was wondering if this is done in 2002, right? I wonder if they had, do you think they had spell check back then? I wonder kind of a document this is this a Word document or, because maybe some of the spelling here is because you didn't have, I mean, but some of these words, I don't think you really need spell check for, right? All right. Some of those words, I don't think you really need that much help spelling. Okay, so this is Amber Costello. I think this was the first victim here. Female hair on Costello. So this was found on her. That's bad for him. Tape in the area of the head, Victoria. So this goes back to the daughter.
Tape in the area of the head, allegedly matching the suspect's daughter.
Was anybody keeping count? So 3 of the hairs go back to the daughter, and 2 of the hairs go back to the mom.
So with that in mind, the next question in our investigation relative to this evidence, what is the significance of the wife and daughter's DNA? Here to help with our investigation, back with us, forensic death investigator Joseph Scott Morgan, also the host of the...
I'll try to find that out for you, but if it's 1993, I don't know if she was born yet. Hold on.
Podcast, Body Bags with Joseph Scott Morgan, and also joining us, the attorney representing the children of the accused serial killer. It's Ves Mitev is with us. Ves and Joseph, great to have you both here. Let me ask you first, Ves, from your perspective, the legal perspective and the way this trial is going to go down, what is the significance of the wife and daughter's DNA here?
Well, it's an invitation for confirmation bias, which is exactly what Mike Brown and the defense argued in their motion to preclude it. Again, you have this never before held admissible.
So I'm sorry, it was I always mix them up. It was Sandra Castilla who was found. She was unalived in November 19th, 2000 or 20th in 1993. I always get her and the other one confused.
Completely novel methodology as to this DNA that's now taking for the forefront in this case. And obviously in the court of public opinion, in the court of the press, in the media, it's a slam dunk. But legally, you know, you have to have generally accepted scientific principles backing this methodology, which the defense, I think, correctly argues doesn't exist. So that's a gate stopper right out of the bag. So, of course, now that the judge has made the ruling that the DNA is going to go in, they have to attack that at trial as well, saying, look, it's novel. It's never been held to be admissible before. This is magic. It's not science. So it's significant because the prosecution wants to stack on as many inferences on an inference as possible. And obviously the DNA that his daughter and wife have matching DNA strands on certain victims is confirmation bias. It runs completely afoul, I believe. And you know, if this gets appealed after a trial to establish Court of Appeals precedent, but it's clearly important legally for the prosecution.
Joseph Scott Morgan, from an investigator's perspective, what is the significance of having the wife and daughter's hair on the victims, 4 of the victims here?
Well, it shows familial connection, I think, for one, which is a big part of this, right? Because Where else would the hairs have originated from? You know, you're talking very specific genetic connectivity here. They would approximate, you know, positions in those vehicles perhaps, or in.
No, I did the math, which took me a while. That's why. No, they don't. So if he unalived Sandra Castilla in 1993, his daughter wouldn't have been born. She was born, I think, in 1997. Don't quote me on that. It could have been 1998, but I did the math, so anything's possible.
In that vehicle, if that's the source of the origin, or from within the house where they're domiciled. You know what's really curious about this whole thing, Ben, is that if this had...
What's up, buddy? What's up, Charles? Charles is back. What does what suspect look like?
If this case was being prosecuted in a Daubert state, it might reflect differently here because the standard is so much higher. And I concur with counsel here. New York is still caught up in the 1920s because they're using the Frye standard, which was literally established in the early 20s, I think. It's kind of a general acceptance thing. If the judge says that it's acceptable, it's acceptable. Daubert standard came along, I think, in 93, and that's how far behind New York is. You know, as progressive minded as they are, and they talk about how progressive they are, they're still caught up in this loop. And it's going.
I think they're the only state still that does the Frye hearing. I'm not sure. I could be wrong on that, but
to work against Heuermann, I think, in this particular case, and it might shock the courts into making some kind of decision about moving forward in the future relative to maybe adopting a Daubert standard instead of the Frye.
A different standard for permitting this type of.
So the suspect is is Rex Heuermann. Paula. Sorry.
New scientific evidence. Let me ask you, Vess, maybe explain further what you meant when you said confirmation bias.
Yeah, so the Court of Appeals in New York in 2020, in a case called People versus Williams, they said, you know, the mere repetition of a questionable methodology by a judge doesn't make it generally accepted. In other words, you can repeat questionable things until they reach a form of authority. So that's what I meant. So you have the daughter's DNA, the wife's DNA, and now you're asking the jury to confirm, therefore, Mr. Heuermann's DNA also is there, and therefore, based on this completely novel methodology, you have to conclude, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that he did it as opposed to anyone else. I mean, what is the probability? And then that's when, you know, people say that's the problem, as was just pointed out, with these types of novel, completely at the forefront, not peer-reviewed, not peer-tested methodologies, that you're inviting confirmation bias. You have a suspect, you have a horrific fact pattern. Hard facts make bad law, right? That's the old adage. And so justice demands an answer, and the jury is invited to build an inference upon an inference, while at the same time disclaiming that and arrive at the verdict. And that's the confirmation bias. It must.
I'm telling you right now, like, I know that you think Illinois has Frye hearings too? I could be wrong. I'll have to look that up. Whoops. Let me get rid of my calculator here. I was just going to say something. I know that everybody thinks, most people, I mean, if you did a pool, like probably 75%, at least, maybe even higher, I think this guy's guilty. And I'm probably in that camp. But this is not going to be an easy case.
Must be it, because the science that's untested says it is.
Joseph Scott Morgan.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
No one is going to believe that the daughter or the wife would be involved in this or are responsible for this. So what could could the explanation potentially be that it's like the science is wrong here?
Well, the thinking is, right, like if it was just, my opinion, if it was just one of them's DNA hair, say it was the daughter's DNA hair, right? And the daughter had a boyfriend, that you can explain that maybe, that, you know, somebody else might have done it because they're around her all the time. And but when you have multiple people in the home's DNA hairs on there, that might be a problem. Hold on one second here. Let me, what am I doing? Okay, so this is for, this is Rex Human here. Now, his attorney is probably a good 6'2", at least. He's a big guy too, so that's a bad comparison, but he's probably, Rex Human's probably about 6'5", 6. I mean, he's big, tall. I mean, look at this lady in the background. I mean, she's kind of short, so it's not, I mean, he's head and shoulders above everybody. So he's got to be a good 6'5", 6'6", and he's heavy too. Like, so he's just a big guy. He's a big man. Let's see if I can find a better picture. Like here, here's this cop here behind him, and he's, I mean, the cop barely comes up to his shoulders here. He's a big guy. He's huge. These women had no chance against him, not without a gun. You think he's 6'8"? He might be. Hold on a second. Yeah, I think he's guilty too. Like I got him at like 80%. But I'm just saying it's New York, you know, and hold on a second here. Your little bro is 6'9", 3. Yeah, that's a big guy too.
That these hairs would not be connected to the wife and daughter, but if it is connected to the wife and daughter, no one's going to believe that they took part in this.
No, they're not going to believe that they had involvement. But again, back to this word of inference, you think about proximity. Proximity. Who had proximity where these hairs, you know, kind of originated from? Well, they're domiciled at the same location. They use the same transportation modality. You know, they're traveling along. So there's going to be an opportunity for these hairs to have attached themselves along the way. Here's another thing too. You begin to think about, and we're talking about nuclear DNA testing as opposed to mitochondrial DNA testing. They're going to be dazzled, and I can tell you this, of course, going to be dazzled. If you think the numbers on mitochondrial DNA are overwhelming, wait till they start to get into the nuclear DNA, because we're talking about, this is the methodology that is utilized in order to map the entire human genome. All right. So these numbers are going to be overwhelming. And when you begin to present this before a jury, and they're going to talk about numbers here, quintillion, things like that.
Charlotte's here. Hey, Charlotte, good to see you. I've been worried about you. We just did the whole Richard III 2, or how did I Princess in the Tower 2. Some people don't speak in English. I need subtitles. I don't know if I have that. It's good to see Charlotte. We missed you. I hope you're well. Southern Gal's still here. Southern Gal is an amazing human being. She has a great freaking channel. I try to make it there as much as I possibly can. But the fact now that I'm driving around all over the place and I don't have the greatest cell phone service, I know these are excuses, but they're really good ones. Because lately, especially lately, last month or so, I've had a crappy cell phone service. But you know, Southern Gal's awesome. And so are other people in here that have great channels. So that's okay. I was looking for different, I don't know, Spanish, maybe, I don't know. Me no speak no English. Shibby could translate if they were Canadian.
They can't even, the human mind can barely begin to comprehend
I'm pretty sure everybody in this channel can translate bullshit, right?
this. They're going to be overwhelmed, I think, by simple probability here when they hear this. The root of this, though, is going back to scientific plausibility. You know, it has not been peer reviewed in state, well, anywhere at this point in time where it's being utilized for this purpose alone. It's been used in the medical community for years and years. You know, we do things in nuclear DNA testing to search for disease, origins of disease, these sorts of things. They're even using it to, you know, you're talking about bringing back things like the woolly mammoth, you know, that sort of thing, things that are so decayed and so far in our past. But it doesn't have a criminal application here. This is the first run out of the gate with it. That's what makes this so significant.
I guess the argument is you got to start somewhere, right? We'll see. This is going to be a hotly.
This is going to be, unfortunately, this case here is almost going to be a forever thing. It's just probably never going to be over. That's the problem. And this is when it becomes a problem for the families of the victims. You know, it's like crazy. Yes, I've missed you too, Charlotte. We've all missed you. Drunkenness and bullshit. Yep, that's for sure. I hope you're well, Charlotte. Yeah, they're starving people. Woolly mammoths won't help. All right, so I'm going to get into this douchebag here now. Let's get out of this here. This came out this week too, and I've been following this. Hold on 1 second here. So this is an update on the Oklahoma. Remember the mother and the chaperone for the mother, the Kansas City moms here. This is the ringleader here. Apparently, this is the suspected ringleader, Grandma Tiffany. Is that spelled wrong? Isn't it 2 F's in Tiffany? I don't know. Pleads no contest to the ambush and unaliving of the two Kansas moms. I think was it Kansas City moms, Kansas moms. Tiffany Adams, an Oklahoma woman accused of orchestrating the unaliving of her grandchildren's mother, and a court-ordered supervisor pleaded no contest this week and is expected to spend the rest of her life behind bars. So she's pled no contest, and this was done a day ago. Do you guys remember this case? They found the car, and then they finally found the bodies, unfortunately. So here we go with this.
Tiffany, right? Because we spent most of last year covering Grandma Tiffany's evil scheme and the aftermath, and she has just essentially admitted, yeah, okay, you got me. Admitted that she's orchestrated the ambush murder of a mom of her own grandkids, the mother of her own grandchildren. Grandma Tiffany didn't like Veronica Butler very much. That's an understatement. And she hated the custody battle that Veronica was fighting with her son. Now, Jillian on the right there with the blonde hair, Jillian was just a court-ordered supervisor.
These poor women, like they just, like brutally unalived, ambushed, literally. And they weren't just, this is awful. This is an awful case. I hope these people go to jail forever, prison forever. I hope nothing but bad things happen to them. Put it that way.
Right? She was assigned to the custody visit. She had nothing to do with anything. Talk about wrong place, wrong time, because Jillian was murdered right along with Veronica for good measure, witness and all. This happened on the day before Easter, March 30th, 2024. Veronica, they're on the left, and Jillian on the right. They got into their car and they drove from Kansas over the state line into Oklahoma because that's where they were expecting to pick up Veronica's kids for a custody visit, right? And they were going to meet up with Grandma Tiffany at a rural highway intersection for the handoff. You know how that goes. Instead, those two women were diverted off the highway and right into a trap, because waiting for them with weapons were Grandma Tiffany, her boyfriend Tad Cullum with the long gray beard there, another couple.
Look at these guys.
Cora and Cole Twombly, and a fifth guy named Paul Grice. All of these misfits, and I say that because they were all members of an anti-government Christian prayer group that called itself God's Misfits. And that's according to court documents, not according to me. Grandma not only hatched the plot, she bought the burner phones, she bought the stun guns, and she persuaded all these co-conspirators to go along with the plot. The girls who died, the victims, their car was found abandoned the very same day, but it would take 2 full weeks before anybody could find their bodies. 8.
I hope you're well, Charlotte. This reminds me so much of that's what the movie I was thinking about. Remember the crazy guy a couple of weeks ago we did, the guy that kind of confessed on live TV that he unalived his parents, and I was trying to figure out who he looked like. He looked like that guy on an HBO special there. What the hell is his name? Dave, the New Yorker there, who I forgot the name of the show now, but that's who he reminded me of. All right, here we go.
Miles away. Those two women had been crammed inside of a freezer chest, which the killers had then buried 10 feet underground on a piece of property that was leased by Tad. Again, Tad is Grandma's boyfriend. When they got those bodies out of this awful grave and out of that freezer chest, the autopsies discovered that Veronica was stabbed 9 times, but she had an additional 21 defensive stab wounds to her hands. Jillian Kelly, the person who was just there to supervise, well, the group apparently wrote her off as collateral damage. She was also stabbed 9 times and had 7 shallower cuts as well as defensive wounds. 2 members of this murderous group took plea deals pretty quick, before even Grandma Tiffany could get herself to the trough. Those 2 were Cora Twombly and the person who actually wielded the knife, Paul Grice. Both had death penalty taken off of the table in their cases. And that is the same story now for Grandma, who up and pleaded no contest, didn't plead guilty, just no contest. I got it. You got me. So Grandma's going to be sentenced in January, but she will not face death. So now that leaves 2 men standing, Tad Cullum and Cora's husband, Cole Twombly. They're going to have to face the jury, or they are going to have to do what 3 of the others did before them, and that is beg for their lives and cop a...
See, this is where this thing gets out of control, in my opinion, is there's so many different narratives going on right now with these 5 people, and the prosecution is having troubles with, caving. These people shouldn't be getting any breaks, man, in my opinion. But we've seen it now time and time again, right? They plead their way out, the prosecution caves, and these people get such minimal sentences. This is such a brutal crime, man. This is these people, in my opinion, don't deserve a plea deal. Don't. But they don't deserve plea deals, in my opinion.
Plea, if it's even offered. I'm joined now by the first attorney I thought of when I heard about Grandma's news, and that was Mark Eiglarsh. She's a criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor. He's a good friend of the show. Okay, I don't get it, Mark Eiglarsh. Why would the prosecutors even offer this woman a deal when they had her dead to rights and she's the mastermind?
All right, so let's
support your theory. First, let me concede that what she did was especially heinous, atrocious, and cruel, cold, calculated, and premeditated. All the words that you hear tossed around for cases that warrant the death penalty. Now, that said, the best negotiations are when both parties leave the table not getting exactly what they wanted. While the prosecution would love to see her on death row, the prosecution got her to spend the rest of her life in prison without the possibility of parole. The benefit they get is closure. They don't have to go to a trial. Plus, if they did proceed to try to get the death penalty, all 12 in Oklahoma would have to be unanimous. All it takes is one juror to say, I don't know, she once said, God bless you.
Then why have a death penalty? I understand, I understand the rigors and the amount of work you got to put into these things, but why have one then? I mean, it's just a bartering tool at that point. It just, you get the DP, right? You slap the DP, and then you say, okay, we're going to spend all this time, all this money, and then at the end of the day, they're just going to plea. And then why have one then? It's just so stupid. It's so dumb.
Somebody, I think that's good enough to spare her. Or I think having her live life in prison would be tougher for her than actually being alone on death row. I don't know what possible thought process they might have, but they have to be unanimous. But here's the most important thing, Ashley.
This next case that we get into after this, it's just I don't understand. I don't get it.
Even once they get a conviction, and even if they get the death penalty and all 12 agree, then the appeals start. And you know about this. This will go on for decades. And I researched this. In Oklahoma, almost half of those who get the death penalty, those convictions are reversed on appeal. Either the sentence or the conviction then is reversed. That is an insane number. We really want to do this all over again in a couple of decades? I don't think so.
Well, and 5 times over, because there's 5 of them in this conspiracy, right? And
that's why I have a lot of respect for the Gonzalez family over there in Utah. No, Idaho. Where the hell was it? Idaho. They wanted that. They wanted to go to trial. They wanted to see this guy get gassed, and I don't blame them. Why have it then? It's such a stupid. It's just a bartering tool. You basically. I don't know. I don't get it. Sorry.
yeah, at about 10 million per death penalty, that's a lot of money to put these people away. So can I ask you about the no contest piece? Because at the very, 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 very least, this woman and the evidence.
Okay, so we're gonna get Sweet Dude Shibby some more subscribers, and we're gonna get Mustang more subscribers for sure. Definitely. I don't know what's going on here. 3 o'clock at spaghetti time. Spaghetti is awesome. Anytime.
Evidence against her was so compelling. Why didn't they demand that she say, I am guilty, and here are the details?
The direct answer is, I don't know. Would have been nice, right? But it's not something that's that atypical. Most of my clients plead no contest, even when they're absolutely guilty of it. It just gets us to the potential sentence. It really doesn't have any impact. She will absolutely never get out of prison. She's pleading and getting life without the possibility of parole, and that's it. I know we would love to hear her say, I'm guilty, and even give testimony if somehow that's helpful. But the prosecutors didn't think it was that necessary.
So with a no contest, does that mean she gets to just scamper away to her cell? Or does she have to turn on the others and testify against these other 2, or at least put the pressure on those other 2 that we got you dead to rights too? You better plead.
Separate issues. So no contest simply means you're not admitting it, you're not contesting it. It's a way to get you to take the plea and you move on. The separate question is, will she, as part of her plea, offer testimony against the others? And specifically, the plea that I read didn't call for testimony against the other two, either because prosecutors feel they have a strong enough case without her, and or because she's garbage. A cross-examination of her would decimate her, and she's not worthy of calling. So it's not necessary. I think prosecutors feel that, and they got what they wanted.
I mean, you're right about that. She is absolute garbage. And she is Kohberger level garbage. What she plotted and what these people did to these two terrified women, one of whom was collateral damage. I mean, imagine.
Yes, Amy G is amazing. She's got a great show. Jenny, except the university should have a lot to answer for. We are now desperately trying to correct it. Should we do some shorts that will get your count up? I found out modding isn't against my religion, so I'm a mod for 3 channels now. Kind of like it. Well, the good news about being a mod here is you don't have to do anything. Was anyone on the panel worth it? No.
Going through these 5 people and thinking, fine, well, we'll get this. Fine, we'll get this second one too. Or, you know, who cares? Who cares? She's here and she's a witness. The issue that I was curious about was the sentencing. It's scheduled for 3 days. Why is it scheduled? I've seen sentencing that takes maybe a half hour. Why 3 days? Are they planning to unload everything, every detail, every piece of evidence, and get part of the story that we've never yet heard?
That might be part of it. The other part is you need to ask for significant.
I was saying last week, Charlotte, you're like one of the first people I had in the chat. I remember there was Copper Horse, there was Karen Lee, there was you, there was Heather, I'm pretty sure it was Heather, and Mino for sure. But I'm pretty sure you were there too. You were like one of the first people in here. We love you here. I get nervous and when you're not here for a few weeks. Don't mind me. I just hope you're well. That's all I care about.
In time, in case you want to have victims testify, and you don't know how long they're going to be. So in the abundance of caution, you ask for 3 days. And if it takes a day, day and a half, that's okay. That's how we do things. We ask for more time than what we possibly need to afford every person who's been impacted by her horrible deeds to be able to express and get some closure in that courtroom.
This person's a monster, literally. I mean,
So the Twombleys.
who's to say that she's not going to be in jail ordering other hits with other people? Like, it's just.
Again, the this has to be a big screen movie. What the moronic plot that these 5 people put together. The Twombleys, the married couple, had a 15-year-old daughter. They still do, and this 15-year-old daughter probably.
Yep, Hebby brought you here. I'm still mad at her. I don't blame her. You for being mad at her. Which Hebby? Heather, right? Is it Heather? Yes, Paula was here first too. Paula has been here for a while.
Unknowingly told the police all the conversations that she overheard her parents having about this murder plot. Do you think a big part of the plea offerings thus far, all 3 plea offerings thus far, do you think a big part of it has been to spare this child not only the testimony against her own parents, both of them, but testifying 5 times in 5 different...
Yeah, I think when he said trash, he meant it differently than when she said trash, though. I think he meant the trash when he's called her a trash witness, meaning he was saying that if they called her as a witness, it would be, I mean, he picked a bad word to say, obviously, but she would be collateral damage. Like she would, Jinx brought you here. Yeah. Charles and I, Boston Christian and I go back a ways too. Okay, here.
Different trials.
The answer is yes. You do want to avoid putting her through that.
Ashley Banfield just basically called her trash. I mean, I don't think he did, but he just used it. He could have used a different word.
But if prosecutors didn't get what they wanted, they would have put her through that. I mean, ultimately, getting a life sentence is not a bad deal. Unless the crime occurred in front of a busload of nuns, and even if it does, there's no slam dunks. I disagree with you, Ashley. I met you during the Casey Anthony case, if you remember. And during that time period when we shared an umbrella when it was raining, we saw a case that we thought was a slam dunk. And the jurors, believing she was guilty, walked out of that jury room in tears because, well, we know she did something, but we can't say, was it first, was it?
We're just, I'm just so happy that you're here. I missed you last week, but I get it. We just adore you here, Heather. You're just so amazing. And I'm just so glad the good news. It's just, like I said, that made my whole month last week when Dino came on here. So we love you too. And if your phone dies, that's fine. Just have a great night and stay safe.
Was it second? Was it third? There's never a slam dunk. You don't know that. Anyone who's been around the criminal justice system knows that when you can get somebody to plead guilty and waive their right to appeal, so they go to their prison and we don't hear from them and they're done, there's a value to that.
Yeah, I learned my lesson in October of 1995 with O.J. Simpson. To me, that was the slam dunk that never was. And I'll tell you what, it informed me as a crime reporter to give the benefit of the doubt and listen and never assume.
I can't wait for that, Paula. Can't wait to see that. Get some chickens. Yeah, chickens are good for ticks. Is Dietz leaving too? Have a good night, Dietz. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it.
Because stuff happens. You know what I was going to say. Hey, Mark Eiglosh, I appreciate your wisdom on all of this. You have to talk me off the ledge a lot, but I feel like we're going to have a lot more of these plea deals, given how hard the death penalty has become and given how expensive it is, too.
Thank you, Ash. I appreciate you having me on.
So
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our News Nation app.
That's the end of that. What am I doing? Oh, sorry. Hold on 1 second here. Let's get out of this here. I do want to go to this case here, the Sandra Birchmore case here. There's a Pertinence here. Good to see Pertinent. So this is, we've covered this ad nauseum here. This is the Sandra Birchmore case. I've been following this case for a long time now. Again, this case came back to life after the Karen Read trial, or during the Karen Read trial, the first trial anyways, or was it the second trial? One of them. But while Karen Read was on trial, they were picketing outside the courthouse for this person here, who was unalived. So they got a trial date set now for this piece of dog crap, Matthew Farwell here. So former Staunton, Massachusetts police officer Matthew Farwell will stand trial next year for the 2021 unaliving of Sandra Birchmore, a former police officer explorer who prosecutors say was groomed and sexually essayed. And at the time of her unaliving, Birchmore was with child. So long story short, in this case here, they're accusing this guy here of grooming and essaying this poor kid here. She wasn't a kid, obviously, at the time. She was unalive, but so here we go here with this here, and they got a trial date set.
It took more than 3 years to charge somebody with Sandra Birchmore's murder. It was a murder that was staged to look like a suicide, but at least we now know someone's going to go to trial for it, and that trial is 1 year from now. her former married boyfriend, an ex-Massachusetts cop, Matthew Farwell, was just told by a federal judge that his trial is going to start October 5th, 2026. Former officer Farwell is accused of grooming Sandra Birchmore while she was an underage member of a youth program in the Stoughton PD. And when I say youth, she...
Nothing says corruption like Massachusetts. I lived there. It's possible that during the 80s and 90s, a good 25% of law enforcement in Massachusetts was either working for the mob or connected to the mob, especially the Irish mob. Yes, it's so good to see you too, Charlotte. So this case here, where's Pertinent? Pertinent's here somewhere. Good to see Pertinent in the chat. Hope you're well. It's good to see everybody here. Everybody's amazing. All right, so I was going to say something. So anyways, this guy here, there's two other guys, but this guy here is the guy that's on trial, Matthew Farwell. Just literally, this poor kid, right? She went to this youth organization thing, and he just took advantage of her.
She was barely just a teenager. When she died, Sandra was 23 and pregnant. Police found her hanging from a door handle in her own apartment back in 2021. And over time, her death gave rise to mind-blowing allegations of long-term sex abuse by Matthew Farwell and by his twin brother.
Here's the other guys. These are the other two here, Robert Devine, William Farwell. Both of these guys. It's these cases just really make me angry, man. Talk about power trips.
William Farwell, who is also a cop, and by ex-deputy police chief Robert Devine. Investigators uncovered text messages that appear to show that William, the brother, had sex with Sandra as...
You can call me anything you want. Just not late for supper. Pertinent's awesome. Thank you so much for that. That's a good name, though. I like the Prowlettes. I don't think the guys in here would like that, though. The 80s was wild. Yeah, the 80s was wild. A lot of hairspray. Our Portland police chief in the 1980s sold drugs out at the Chinese restaurant. Whitey here down in Massachusetts was literally an informant.
as recently as 22 days before she died.
And his brother was a senator, right? So there you go. That's all the corruption you need to know.
Deputy Chief Robert Devine allegedly contacted Sandra Birchmore on the very day that she died for reasons unknown. Now, why would a
just utter this poor kid had no chance, none, zero. From a young age too. I think she was 11 or 12, maybe even younger than that. This whole case reminds me of this piece of dog shit is no better than Stephen Stearns. It's the same kind of situation here. All three of them.
Deputy Police Chief be contacting a 23-year-old pregnant woman who long ago was in the Explorers program as a kid? Matthew Farwell, the alleged killer, apparently thought that he'd fathered Sandra's baby. And she apparently thought so too. But the DNA tests that were conducted after she died, those were a shocker. They showed that Matthew Farwell was not actually the father. And we don't yet know who was. But for now, Matthew is the only person facing any criminal charges in Sandra.
That's him right there. That's the guy that's coming through this door and he's going up to her apartment. And
Birchmore's death, and he may well face the death penalty if convicted. That is some of the evidence they'll see. That's him walking to her apartment. That's the night before she died, or at least was found dead. Feds have until January to decide if they're going to pursue death. And there is a ton to unpack here. So I am pleased to be joined once again by Melissa Berry, who operates the Justice for Sandra Birchmore Facebook page. And she was in the courtroom today.
Yes, Whitey Bulger. Shout out to Aquanet. Absolutely. Aquanet and parachute pants. Remember parachute pants? I had like 3 pairs of those. And I had hair. Our shoulder pads weren't fat girl friendly in the 1980s. They still aren't. Remember the leg warmers? They're coming back. Scooby-Doo Dieter. Yes. Leg warmers too. Leg warmers, I'm sorry, shoulder pads look stupid on everyone. I'm telling you, man, that's probably why you don't see a lot of pictures from the 1980s, because everybody's probably thrown them out. Some of the clothing, my God. Remember those big winged shoulder pads that they used to have? I remember the hairspray for sure. Shades of my youth. The hairspray. Go to kiss a girl and you get like a hair full of hairspray. Didn't what's her face make those famous in that movie Irene Cara in Fame? Isn't that where that whole leg warmer thing came from? Her and Jane Fonda, right? All right, sorry.
I also want to welcome Barbara Wright, a cousin of Sandra's, who was Sandra's mother figure after Sandra's own mother died. And she was also in the courtroom today. Melissa and Barb, thank you so much, both of you. And again, my condolences go out to you. I know it's been 5 years, but I don't think that ever gets any easier. And so I'll be as delicate as I can with these tough questions. Melissa.
What did I say? Flashdance? Fame. Yeah, Flashdance. That's the one. I loved Aquanet in the 1980s. Remember the beer shampoo? What was that? Tad? Or what was the name of that beer shampoo? They had beer in it. I forget the name of that shampoo.
Can I start with you? Farwell was not in that courtroom today, which I think is odd. But what was the mood like? Can you just take me there and tell me a little bit about what was happening?
Yeah, the judge came up and she was no nonsense. And she basically said, I have dates for you. And she ticked through all the dates that are going to happen throughout the next year. And so we were excited to find out, the last date was his trial date.
And Melissa, this is like Whitey Bulger's judge, right? This is one of those real no nonsense judges, as I recall. What was the courtroom like? I know that Sandra, lost her mom and had a difficult family life, and Barb, you stepped in as a mother figure. Were there a lot of people there for her? Were there people there for Farwell?
I'm not really sure.
Yeah, that's it. Body on Tap. That was it. That was the shampoo. You could literally take a shower and get drunk at the same time. Parachute pants. Yeah, that was it. We all looked in our 60s despite being young. The 80s was not complimentary to one. Oh, the Mohawks, remember? We had some good movies, though. Was that Sweet 16? 16 Candles. Remember 16 Candles? That was such a good movie. That right there, like any movie coming out of the 80s is going to have a lot of beer drinking, a lot of partying, house parties for sure. A lot of hairspray. My aunt bought us each 3 big bottles of Super Mega Extra Hold Aquanet. Yeah. And we were never home. Always at concerts, either at a concert, at a party, or just causing a whole bunch of trouble. That's what we were doing. Smoking in McDonald's. Grease came out in 1980s. Oh. We looked 50 in our 20s. Now we look 30 in our 50s. All those hair bands. Remember the hair bands in the 80s? Now they're all bald. You wouldn't even notice them if you didn't see them. You know, like they don't even look anything because all the hair fell out. It was all that hairspray. I was in gel, but it was like cement. Oh, the good old 80s.
I got there a little bit late, and I'm really not sure who was there exactly. Most of the people I think were there for Sandra, though. I would say the majority.
Yeah, Melissa, did you get a read on who was who in that
This woman here has been an advocate for her forever on the left here.
courtroom?
Yeah, I believe most of the people there were for Sandra and were reporters. There was a few people in the back that I didn't know who they were, but most of the people were there for.
I probably have been to, I don't know, 300 concerts in my life. And most of them were between like 1980 and 1989. And I probably can't remember one of them. So there you go. The Kansas Styx concert was classic because I got so blitzed in the parking lot. Like we got there way too early. I think a couple hours early, and I drank almost like a keg of beer. I was so blitzed. I don't remember any of it. I don't even remember Kansas at all.
For Sandra, as far as I could tell.
Well, and sometimes it's, 5 years is half a decade, and it can take a long time, and it can take its toll on people's memories and their, their resilience and coming out to support in justice like this. Barb, do you feel, even though it's 5 years, that the wheels of justice are finally?
I had hair back then too. I literally had hair down to my shoulders. And I used to wear, when I was in the band, we used to go on the stage, and I used to wear a little bit of makeup above my eyeballs so that I could, because the lights back then, the lights were so freaking hot and bright. And when you're playing drums on a stage like that, and you got those freaking lights on you, it is so hot. It just burn your freaking eyes off. So I used to wear a little bit of makeup right above my eyes here. So, but I was drunk then too, so I didn't really care.
Turning?
I do. Finally, yes. It's a long time coming. Yes.
Yeah. 5 years is a long time. And today, Melissa, there was a lot of talk of cooperation in that courtroom. Can you explain what it was in that courtroom that was leading to people discussing a good cooperative effort in this trial?
Yeah, it was mentioned a few times. I know at least once by the prosecution, once by the defense, and then I believe the judge mentioned it twice. So it made my ears perk up. I don't know what that's alluding to, but it definitely piqued my interest that, what has been going on behind the scenes with, the defense and prosecution.
Yeah, Barb, one of the things that I still can't believe, well, first of all, I can't believe.
Has anybody seen Rick Snay around? I haven't seen him for a while. I hope he's all right. You need her to blackmail Dino. Yeah, the 80s were like a drunken nightmare.
Believe that anybody who saw the scene of this alleged suicide would have ever for a minute thought it was a suicide. It was absolute garbage. Forensically, it didn't make sense how she was hanging, in particular from the door handle. There were all sorts of other clues, excited baby clothes, and there was laundry that was in the, those are things that people who are about to take their own lives just don't do. They're not in the middle of doing. But the death certificate still says suicide. Do you have any idea why? And has anybody talked you through this process from the victim's advocate point of view?
So I think they did some DNA testing, and he technically wasn't the father. So I wonder why they're keeping. Did they ever come out and say who the father was? Because it's strange how they're keeping it quiet.
I have not talked to anybody from a victim's advocate point of view, but I know that the Boston ME insists on her initial decision based on what she saw at the time, shortly after Sandra's death. And I don't know why she doesn't want to change it, her decision. We've got two other, people saying, experts saying it was definitely not a suicide. So.
Yeah, and Melissa, you know how this works. When it comes to trial, that's something that Matthew Farwell's defense attorney is going to lean on heavily. It can't be a murder if the medical examiner thinks.
I was an extra in a 1980s George Romero movie that featured his best friend Stephen King and Ed Harris. Went on to be popular Ken Faree. White dog poo? Yeah, do tell, for sure. I'm in agreement with. I concur with Southern Gal. My parents had no control over us whatsoever. I mean, they tried. You got to give them credit for they tried, but I was going to do it no matter what. I mean, that's why parents are the way they are today. I think it's like, if you can be a parent through the 80s, you can be a parent through any decade. Like I was such a horrible person. Filmed in Fawn Township, PA, outside of Pittsburgh. I know that is. B movie Night Riders. That's so cool. Let's go back to this.
Thinks it was a suicide. And then, of course, these other experts, it will be a battle of the experts, so to speak, in the courtroom. Do you have any idea?
That is cool. That's amazing. That's freaking awesome. I know where that is, though. I know where that township is. I've been by it anyways. I don't know if I've ever actually been there.
Melissa, why it is that the ME is intransigent in this case about changing the death certificate from suicide to murder, if clearly enough people believe that she was murdered to charge this man?
Yeah, I find it odd that the statement that was released says something to the effect that at the time of my findings, that was the evidence I used, I went by. But, a medical examiner can go back to a case and reopen it and look over it to make sure that it was done properly and the right outcome is what they determined. And for some reason, this medical examiner is sticking to what her first findings were. And
I was always in, like, I never went to class. I literally I went early to class and then I got my name called over the intercom. So I was at the printers. I was always in either detention or after school. So yeah, I got straight A's in high school. I switched the absent and marks column. Yeah, no, I was never in class. I had one teacher tell me, just, Miss Granger, I remember her English teacher. She's like, if you don't want to be here, that's fine. Just leave. Just don't ruin it for everybody else. So I left. And let me tell you that, believe me, they weren't trying to keep me in school for a while. Get out.
and doesn't want to budge on this, and it makes no sense to a lot of people.
And we have felt that a lot in the Ellen Greenberg case as well, where a medical examiner believed a woman stabbed herself 20 times.
Probably going to sound like a male chauvinist pig here, but when I was in high school, I cared about two things: girls and alcohol. That's it.
10 times to the back of her head and neck, and it's still a suicide in their books. It's confounding to the rest of us. Barb, this is a hard question, but I think it's a fair one. The prosecutors have until January 20th to decide if they're going to seek death in the penalty phase if they get a conviction.
Yeah, I mean, cars, but you can have your cars. I'm going, in high school, man. It was all about the opposite sex and alcohol. My teacher asked that. My reply was, "Okay, but you promised not to tell my dad."
Against Matthew Farwell. You are the mother figure to this. I look at her, I think she's a baby. You know, I often feel like Sandra Birchmore was just a child. Do you want death penalty in this case?
I do not. Basically,
Why does she keep saying the DP? There's no death penalty. There's no DP in Massachusetts. I don't know what's going on. Maybe because it's a federal case? Is it different if it's a federal case? Does anybody know that? Looking it up right now. Death penalty in Massachusetts? It was abolished in 1984. Then why are they saying, however, individuals convicted of, so that's why, because this is the FBI that's pushing this. So this is federal crimes committed in Massachusetts can still face the DP as it is a federal. Okay, so there you go. See, you learn things new every day, man. That's why they were able to get the DP on the marathon bombing. Okay, that makes sense. Because the FBI is doing this, not the state police.
because of my faith, I don't believe in the death penalty, but I would like to see life without parole, without it, this life.
Yeah. Well, that can often be, as we've said earlier in the show, as painful to hear.
I want to cover that case so bad, the Ellen Greenberg case, but they keep coming back with the same. I mean, this is like what the fourth time they've had her examined. It's they keep coming back with the same theory that it was an SA, it was an S, whatever, however you say it on YouTube. I learned yesterday ants bury their dead. How sweet! Yeah, have you ever seen the what kind of ant is that buries themselves in the sand trap ant? I watched that the other night. That was pretty cool. Phone died. Sorry, I know someone said something. It's okay, Heather. Corruption for high-powered boyfriend connection. All right, so I do want to go to this douchebag too. Hold on a second here. Let me get out of this here. I'll keep following the Sandra Birchmore case. I do want to get quickly after this into the Adam Montgomery thing here. Hold on a second here. So this guy here, cats are freaking out here. Leave the cat alone. All right. Sorry about that. So this guy here is he's pleading guilty to a second-degree unaliving. He's basically, I don't know if he's confessed or whatever, but this guy is probably going to be getting out in 15 years, if you can believe it. And I forget who did. I forget who did the. I think it's this guy here. So, anyways, this is Jake Harrow is the father of the missing 7-month-old baby Emmanuel, and he's pleaded guilty to unaliving Emmanuel. Shocking case, the criminal case against Emmanuel's mother, Rebecca, criminal defense attorney. So this guy's done this before, and the reason why he's pleaded down to second-degree murder is because the complications from the second-degree murder having a specific time to it. So let's get going on this here.
In front of you, our change of plea from not guilty to guilty.
Jake Harrow
the father of missing 7-month-old baby Emmanuel, who is presumed dead, has just pleaded guilty. Why do this now? What does it mean for the continuing criminal?
Yeah, so we went over let me pull this up here. So Dave, do you remember to take Andrew out of the royal family tree? We no longer recognize. Yes. So what we did tonight earlier, just to kind of bring you up to speed, is I learned about the Richard III DNA results that came back on the Y chromosome, because they did the maternal line from him. So the maternal line goes back to Anne of York, which is Richard III's sister. So we know that Richard, the guy that they found, obviously in 2012, was Richard III, right? But the problem is that the Y chromosome, the father's line, doesn't go all the way back. So there's a break in the line somewhere. So that's what we kind of went over tonight. But yes, I know, and technically that would pretty much, first of all, if it's illegitimizing the York and the Lancastrian line, then nobody's royal, technically. So there you go.
Criminal case against Emmanuel's mother, Rebecca, and what a newly amended criminal complaint may tell us. We're going to discuss it all with celebrity criminal defense attorney Bradford Cohen. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Hey, real quick, everybody, this is another Law and Crime legal alert. There are allegations right now claiming that online apps like DraftKings and ESPN Bet and BetMGM and Bet365 and Fanatics Sportsbook and check your eligibility boy, whose death captured the nation only a few months ago. Now, you might remember this when Emmanuel was reported missing on August 14th out in Cabazon, California, when the boy's mother, Rebecca Haro, claimed she was standing outside of her car in a Big 5 parking lot. This was out in Yucaipa, changing Emmanuel's diaper when someone physically attacked her, knocked her out. She wakes, her son was gone. Remember that was
the I-95 plane crash. I don't know anything about that. It's so weird, isn't it? It's so weird. Like, I don't think there I don't think there should be any king. It's like, that's why I don't do a lot of history on the moderns, what they call the modern kings. Like, for me, anyways, past Charles I, I could care less. After Charles I got beheaded, the king is not really. It's a king, but it's not really. It's Parliament, and that's what basically controls England. But after Cromwell and the whole rebellion thing there, and getting rid of the king, and then bringing the king back in. After Charles I, the king is just kind of like a figurehead. So that's why I don't follow. I go up until about the Georgian line, because I know that this is the first Stuart king, James I. James I was technically a Tudor. But I'll go up right until it was his son, Charles I. But after that, like Victoria, I think Victoria was great, but it's all Parliament now in England.
Was the narrative,
meaning the king really doesn't have any say. It's not like it was before Charles I, because before then kings kind of had all the power.
and the search was intense, okay? This was a massive search. This story made national attention. Deputies, K-9 units from San Bernardino and Riverside counties, they responded. Local
Okay, I'll look into that.
Sheriff's Specialized Investigations Division responded. Rebecca and Emmanuel's father, Jake Harris.
How can people do this, though? What I don't understand is, if you're going to unalive your own child and then come on camera and lie to everybody, it's not like you're not going to be caught, right? It's never happened. And I said it back when this person here was giving her interview. I said, it reminds me of Susan Smith. It for some reason, it had that vibe to it, like she wasn't really serious.
Harrow, they begged the public for help. The Harrow parents, they spoke to CNN's affiliate, KCAL and KCBS, with Rebecca saying,
yeah, and it was his fault, right? It was his fault because King Charles I really wanted the power that the kings before him had. But, the English people didn't want anything to do with that. And a lot of it had to do with the, the Protestant Catholic thing, but they just had enough. They had it basically goes all the way back to John, John with the Magna Carta and all of the shit he pulled, King John. But right after the Tudor dynasty and Elizabeth I, the English people just had enough of it. Anyways.
I took him out of the car seat and I laid him on the chair and I had his diapers right here and someone said, "Hola," and I couldn't even turn, and that was just...
Elizabeth II was smart. She didn't do a lot. She showed up at all the functions that she had to do. She she kind of got blamed for the Diana thing, but she never really, put her foot in her mouth. So she was pretty smart about that. But some of the other guys, like some of the, the Georgians, George I, George II, George III, they just couldn't keep their mouth shut. They couldn't stop. So
I don't remember nothing. Jake told CNN affiliate KABC he was a healthy baby. He was crawling, he was kicking, he was playing with his toys. Whoever took our son, please give him back. Okay? Here's the problem. After interviewing Rebecca and Jake, Rebecca was apparently confronted with inconsistencies in her initial account of what happened, and that is when they reportedly stopped cooperating with authorities. And by the way, I should mention, Jake was previously convicted of felony willful child endangerment in 2023 for abusing a baby girl in 2018. According to authorities, she had a skull fracture, rib fractures, brain hemorrhage, swelling in the neck, tibia fracture. And by the way, this is after Jake originally told police in that case that he just accidentally dropped the girl while giving her a bath. And when Jake and Rebecca were being investigated for Emmanuel's disappearance,
the king could probably do that, but that wouldn't go. That wouldn't fly. I mean, it'd be, especially this guy, King Charles III. If he ever tried to pull that, man, it'd be, you want to see a rebellion.
Authorities removed a 2-year-old child from their home. So what happens here? What happens with baby Emmanuel? Well, authorities, they searched the parents' home. And on August 22nd, San Bernardino County Sheriff's homicide detectives arrest Jake and Rebecca. They were charged with murder and filing a false police report. And to be clear, and this is one of the most chilling aspects of this entire story, little Emmanuel's remains have not been found. In August, I will tell you, officials, they claimed they had a, quote, pretty strong indication on where his remains were. And they did indicate that baby Emmanuel was severely abused over a period of time. But again, there's so much that we don't know, right? Well, Riverside County District Attorney Michael Hestron in August said, the filing in this case reflects our belief that baby Emmanuel was abused over time and that eventually, because of that abuse, he succumbed to those injuries. But now we got to talk about the big news. And the big news is Jake Harrow has just pleaded guilty. And there is now an amended complaint that Rebecca still faces. Okay, so for all this and more, because certainly there is a lot to break down from a legal perspective, I want to bring on a friend of the show. We love seeing him, somebody who knows a thing or two about high-profile cases, celebrity criminal defense attorney Bradford Cohen with us in studio.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you. Thanks so much for taking the time. I got to start with this big news. Yeah. Okay, so Jake Harrow, the father here, pleads guilty to second-degree murder, filing a...
This guy is such a horrible person, and there's a chance that this guy here may actually plead to second-degree M and still walk free in 15 years. That's why he pled guilty. He made a deal with them to drop it down. He did this the last time. Drop it down to his second degree in the plea to 15 years. He'll be out again. This guy should never, ever be out of prison.
A false report and also assault of a child under 8 years old, which he also was facing, apparently appeared in court yesterday. He officially changed his plea to guilty. This is all according to the Riverside County DA's office. My question is, why do it, and why do it now? Everybody I spoke to about this case is like, it feels so early to do it when you don't know.
What's strange about Elizabeth II is she was never supposed to be queen, right? Like if her father's brother didn't abdicate and just want to be with his lover, their American lover, and just get rid of the throne, his brother, the stutterer, wouldn't have ever been king. I mean, he was never. It's the way the royal family has always been. It goes all the way back. Like, you just name it. Like Edward I, Longshanks. He was one of the greatest warrior kings of all time. They called him the Hammer of the Scots. So, but he died, and technically his son Edward II was probably the worst king ever. You never know in the royal family, man. Just never know. But I do agree that Elizabeth II was she just knew to just not get involved with too much.
All the evidence against him.
Yeah,
she was loaded. She had so much freaking money. It's amazing.
Is a little early. Whenever I look at these cases, I always think that, generally speaking, please don't come until after you see the evidence, after you see what they have. Now, in a case like this, because it's high profile, they might have given a lot to the defense and said, like, listen, if you want to go through with a preliminary hearing, you want us to put on a show, you want us to do all that, then we're looking at XYZ. But if you do it now, we're going to give you the deal of the century. We're going to give you a second degree, and we can show that, the judge is going to sentence you to this. We'll agree to this. I think that's probably where they went. And again, it's very early, but don't forget, I don't think these people are people of great means. And I think that they also weigh that into consideration when you're looking at a defense, you're looking at expert witnesses, you're looking at a long time. They're not getting, a bond tomorrow that they can afford, if at all. And so they're going to be in there.
There was a time in England during the Plantagenets. They were French kings. They literally overtook Matilda. That was the only way she was able to do it. Matilda's probably one of the greatest women that ever lived. I mean, she literally, King Henry I's daughter, literally went through heaven and hell to get the throne, because her father promised her to be the queen. But the one thing about living and promising something and then dying and promising something is different. And once he died, the people that swore fealty to him and said, "Hey, we're fine with your daughter being the queen," completely changed their mind. And but Henry I was smart, because he married her into what they call the French royalty over there in France. That's where they get the Plantagenet name from, is from that flower. But that was the beginning of the Plantagenet line. And one thing about being a woman as opposed to being a man is you can have a child, right? So she married into the Plantagenet French line and had a child, King Henry II. And that's why they call that the Plantagenet line. But she definitely had her work cut out for her. But once that happened, things changed. Where was I going with that? But there was a time in England where French was they tried to make the French language the language of the nation. They basically tried to get rid of the English language completely from England. And that's why, especially back then, most people could speak two languages. They could speak French and English. And I think it's like that today, to be honest with you. That's why there's so many French words in the English language because of that. Elizabeth I, when she addressed the troops before the Spanish Armada, I think she was the first person to do a speech in what they call the King's English without any French words at all. Pretty sure that's true. Not sure.
There for 2 years, 3 years, waiting a trial. So it might be that, or it might be that the guilt of what actually happened weighed on them. And I'm not saying this, that it doesn't happen. It's unusual, but it does happen.
Some would say, okay, wait a minute. If you have a case where there's no body, and you know that a body would help prosecutors explain what happened, when it happened. You do the testing. If you don't have a body, it doesn't mean that someone can't be charged. It doesn't mean someone can't be found guilty, but it does provide a difficulty for prosecutors. It provides more of an avenue for defense attorneys. Maybe that's more so if you're dealing with an adult victim. You could say maybe they ran away, something happened. It's much more difficult when you're dealing with a baby like this. But again, going back to the aspect, do you think defense attorneys would say this was premature? There might have been arguments we could have made to suggest he's not guilty if we don't know where the body is.
Yeah, of course. You know, we don't know all the evidence that's here, right? So, like, we won't know everything that they have. The key here is if you don't have a body, but you're saying all the damage that was done throughout the past year or two succumbed to these injuries and this is what happened, you're giving the idea that you know how this murder occurred. I don't know if they have that evidence, but if you don't have the body, it's tough to say, okay, this is how the murder occurred. It was because he was beaten from when he was, 1 year old till now, and all of those injuries led to his death. It's a tough sell if you don't have the body.
Yes, Dee Dee is awesome. My half brother is full. It's so funny. Yes, German too, for sure. I'm surprised you guys don't speak Roman. I go back further than the Norman Kings too. I go all the way back to Alfred the Great and stuff like that. But a lot of people get bored with the Anglo-Saxon kings. If I had to pick, my favorite queen or king of all time in England is probably Elizabeth I. I mean, she literally just, if anybody that wasn't supposed to be queen, it was her. I mean, they had to go through, Henry VIII's son, Henry the Ninth. Is that it? Henry VIII, Henry the Ninth. No, Edward. It was Edward the Seventh. And then Mary, Bloody Mary, and then she died young. She died really young, and she almost killed Elizabeth. She almost got rid of her. So Elizabeth I had to really struggle to get to. I mean, I don't think her father liked her at all. And that was because of Anne Boleyn. She was Anne Boleyn's daughter. But how she got to the throne is beyond me. And she, up until Elizabeth II, she was the longest. No, wait a minute. It might have been Victoria. Anyway, she was one of the longest reigning. And she beat the Spanish of all things, right? Like she beat the Spanish Armada. Like the Spanish back in her day were like probably the second strongest army in the world. I mean, other than France. I mean, the Spanish Armada, she somehow she was able to defeat, and after that, the Spanish were basically nothing.
To show the different injuries that led to his death.
And his kidnapping story wasn't working.
No,
Yes.
The kidnapping story wasn't working. So, when you have...
Yeah, Elizabeth I was known as the Virgin Queen. And I have theories to why she did that. They tried to get rid of her. The Spanish tried to get rid of her with Mary, Queen of Scots. That didn't work. They tried to bomb her. They tried to do a lot of shit to her. They tried to marry her off to almost every ruler in Europe. And she just refused. She was in love with somebody, I forget the guy's name, somebody that she grew up with. But, she just couldn't marry anybody. She had to marry into royalty. But for one, if she would have had a child and the child would have been a male, she would have been usurped. They would have pushed for the male to usurp her, and she didn't want any of that. Plus, she knew that James the First, or James, I think it was James VI, James VI of Scotland became James the First of England. He was actually a Tudor, so they were related. So that's why. Yes. It was back then, it was a huge religious thing. It kind of still is. Back then, it was a lot about to do. I mean, one thing about Henry VIII is he literally went through everything to try to divorce from Catherine. Because Catherine just couldn't have male offspring. I mean, that's the one thing about being a king back then is you had to produce a male offspring. If not, that was the end of the succession. You were pretty much at any time you could be deposed, usurped, conquered, whatever. So it was important for him to have a royal male offspring. I mean, he did have an illegitimate son with another person, but he died too through the plague, what they call a sweating sickness, I think. But so he did everything he could do to divorce Catherine of Aragon. I mean, it was dispensations. They basically, the Pope told him, no, you can't do it. He did it anyways. He said, fuck you. You can't tell me what to do. All to get to Anne Boleyn, to marry her, changed the entire religion of England from Catholicism to Protestant or Lutheranism to marry Anne Boleyn. And it's just such an amazing story. And then come to find out, Anne Boleyn couldn't have sons either. It's just so weird. Oh. And we were talking, it's so funny because we were talking about Elizabeth Woodville from the Edward IV, right? When he married Elizabeth Woodville. But there's some rumors that after Edward IV died, and when her daughter married Henry VII, she put a curse on him that he'd have trouble with male heirs. Turns out that was that's exactly what happened. Because she was Catherine. That's the one reason why they didn't like her. Elizabeth Woodville is because they thought that she was a witch, literally.
Have these kind of, okay, you have stories that aren't working, and they know that. Yep. I'm sure they have cell phone data.
And, technically it worked because it worked a little bit. I mean, Henry VIII's brother, Arthur, who was supposed to be the king, died of the sweating sickness, which almost took Catherine of Aragon too. And then King Henry VIII's son only made it to 13, so it might have worked.
I'm sure they have texts between them. In this day and age, I always say it's like the hardest time to commit any kind of crime is now.
Yeah.
And it's not not just because of phones and things of that nature, but because people actually put stuff on social media that leads to their arrests, that lead to evidence. And I represent a lot of entertainers. There's rap songs that they sing about, and all of a sudden, that rap song
The heartfelt story is about Lady Jane Grey, because Lady Jane Grey, so there was Aragon, Catherine of Aragon, there was Anne Boleyn, there was I mean, these are the wives anyways. There was Lady Jane Grey, and then there was what's her face from Germany. But of all of the wives that King Henry VIII had, only one of them actually bore a son, which was Lady Jane Grey, and she was the only one to do, and she had such a horrible labor. She was in labor for like, I think, 4 days. Can you imagine that? I mean, the pregnancies back then are not like they are now. But she died very shortly after his son was born, and Henry VIII went into like a depression state for a whole, I think it was like a year or two after that. Anna Cleves, that's right. Thank you. Jane Seymour. Did I say Jane Grey? Sorry. He was completely devastated when she died.
Leads to their arrest. So there's a lot going on with those kind of technologies that I think led to this plea.
Let me tell you something that I'm suspecting might have happened here. It was reported by News Nation that there was a Perkins operation here. So Perkins operation that Jake had admitted in jail that he killed his son and threw him in the trash. Perkins operation.
And beheading back then was actually like, if the king absolved you to beheading, that was actually, he did you a favor. When Anne Boleyn was executed, they executed a lot of other people with her, and not everybody got the simple French sword beheading. They had what they called hung, drawn, and quartered, which a lot of the other guys got, which is freaking brutal. Like that. That's what I consider to be a little bit more brutal than just a beheading.
Officer or an informant poses as an inmate, and the LA Daily News has reported that there was this new court record that revealed Rebecca's attorney, Jeff Moore, objected to a non-disclosure order regarding a Perkins operation, seemingly confirming that.
I think it was Henry VIII that convened her sentence to, because it was at first being hung, drawn, and quartered, and then he changed that to just a beheading, and then he let her get beheaded by a French swordsman instead of a because some of the beheaders there in England were not just, they're not like professional. It was a brutal way to go for sure, but I wouldn't want anything like that. None of it. That's why the French came up with the guillotine, because it was a much more French way to die.
That might have happened if he admitted to an inmate that he did this.
The French always wanted to kind of one-up the English in their cruelty.
You know, maybe that's what led to this. And he's like, there's only, but because you can also say, if this is true, or you admitted to an undercover officer, you admitted to an inmate, thinking they were an inmate, is it credible or is it not?
Right. So we've had cases where there.
Okay, so I'm going to get out of this here. I've been talking too much. I'm sorry. I want to go to this Adam Montgomery thing really quick, and then I'll get out of here. We'll do this one here. We'll do this one. This is quick. Hold on a second. Okay, so this guy might get a new trial here. This is the Adam Montgomery thing. The New Hampshire Supreme Court hears the appeal for Adam Montgomery. He's obviously been accused of and sentenced for the second-degree unaliving of his daughter, Harmony Montgomery. He filed an appeal in New Hampshire State Supreme Court. And this was done a couple of days ago. Here we go. This guy's a piece of shit.
Montgomery are now before New Hampshire's highest court. Good afternoon. Thanks for being with us. I'm Priscilla Casper.
And I'm Glenn Jones in for Colton. Last year, Harmony's father, Adam, was convicted of killing her. But he's appealing that ruling. Let's go live to NBC 10's John Maroney, who is following what's happening with the case in Concord, New Hampshire. John.
Glenn, good afternoon. Harmony Montgomery was murdered 6 years ago. Her father did not appear in court today. And if you recall, he didn't appear much at his trial either.
Did the Superior Court give that robust instruction?
The New Hampshire Supreme Court has taken up the case of Adam Montgomery.
Do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Guilty. Montgomery was convicted last year of murdering his 5-year-old daughter, Harmony. Her body hasn't been found, but he was sentenced to nearly 60 years on charges including second-degree murder and assault.
The homicide-related charges rested exclusively on Kayla Montgomery's version of what happened on December 7th. She had significant credibility problems.
The defendant's attorney asked the High Court to overturn the conviction for several reasons, including the credibility of Kayla Montgomery, the prosecution's key witness.
He folded her in half and put her in the double bag.
Harmony's stepmother, Kayla, testified against her husband after pleading guilty to perjury charges. She said Montgomery killed his daughter by hitting her repeatedly because of frequent bathroom accidents. The family was living in a car at the time.
He could smell urine, and he started yelling at Harmony and kept hitting her in the head.
The justices heard other grounds for Montgomery's appeal. His attorney said the murder and assault charges should not have been tried together. Plus, jurors improperly learned about the defendant's abusive treatment of his daughter before her death.
The defendant did have extreme indifference to the value of her life. He did not treat her the way that a father is supposed to treat a 5-year-old daughter.
Now, no word on when the High Court might rule. In other developments, a wrongful death lawsuit that had been filed against Adam Montgomery by Harmony's biological mother has been dismissed. Crystal Sorey apparently missed an important filing deadline. Well, I'm in Concord, New Hampshire. John Maroney, NBC 10 Boston.
All right, so I'll do one more, then I'll get the hell out of here. Hold on a second here. I do want to do one more thing here. I can do that now. Hold on a second. I don't think he's going to get I don't think it's going to happen. But you never know. I wanted to do a cold case update here. Hold on one second here. If I can find it. Give me two. Oh, right here. Almost went right by it. Okay, so here we go. Let me just go back in the chat. Yep, that's right. Thank you, Charlotte. Yeah, most were drunk. Yes. The problem is with the Viking stuff is they didn't never wrote anything down. The Saxons were a little bit better. We have the Chronicles, and the Vikings. Vikings kind of left it up to other people to, I mean, there's some stuff that we know, there's some stuff we don't know. But everything got kind of changed when they switched over to Christianity. So it's tough to know what's real before, I'd say before the Vikings really started to get going on their conquests. So before, I would say definitely before the 800s BCE. I mean CE. But all the way back to Charlemagne. Yes, he's a horrible person. Adam Montgomery is a real terrible human being. Just Anything's possible though. He might get an appeal, but I doubt it. All right, let's go to this here. All right, so this is what I wanted to share. This DNA evidence on Smoothie Straw links suspect to a 1984 cold case unaliving on Long Island. More than 4 decades ago, after 16-year-old Teresa Fusco was unalived in Lynbrook, prosecutors say they finally identified her unaliver. This is, again, DNA. Nassau County District Attorney Ann Donnelly announced that DNA evidence collected at the time in the 1984 has now led investigators to a new suspect, Richard Bilodeau. That name sounds familiar. The link was made after DNA from a discarded smoothie straw was compared to genetic material recovered from the original crime scene. This case has a complex and painful history. In 2003, after DNA technology began gaining traction in criminal investigations, 3 men who spent 17 years in prison for Fusco's unaliving were exonerated, and they'll probably sue and get a lot of money. So, and that's the thing about DNA that people don't realize is, I mean, people shouldn't be sent to prison falsely anyways, but DNA works both ways. It can exonerate people and it can convict people. So here we go. Nope. Hold on. Hold on a second. Let me share this here. Hold on 1 second here. Oops.
Good evening, Joe. A Nassau County homicide cold case has been solved again. Teresa Fusco was raped and murdered here in Lynbrook in 1984, and it rocked this close-knit community. Now, 3 men were originally convicted for her murder, but that conviction was.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome, Mustang. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Overturned, and now prosecutors say DNA evidence has led them to the real killer, 63-year-old Richard Bilodeau, who they say lived on this block in Lynbrook with his grandparents at the time of the murder.
I only loved her and I miss her. That's all I can say. She lives in my heart, as you can see.
The death of 16-year-old Teresa Fusco of Lynbrook has been a mystery for decades. Now, prosecutors are charging 63-year-old Richard Bilodeau of Center Murches with her murder. Police and the FBI began surveilling Bilodeau in 2024, eventually obtaining his DNA from a cup and a straw from a smoothie he drank. They say his DNA matched the DNA found on Teresa Fusco's body. He was arrested Tuesday.
I mean, if you go by looks, he looks guilty, right?
He drank. They say his DNA.
That looks guilty. Right? That face says it all, man.
Matched the DNA found on Teresa Fusco's body. He was arrested Tuesday and charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder. Prosecutors tell us Bilodeau denied knowing Teresa when he was questioned over the summer.
He said people got away with murder back then. Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Bilodeau. It's 2025, and I got you now.
Prosecutors say Teresa Fusco was leaving her job.
I gotta hear that again. Did she just call him Blodo?
Bilodeau.
Yeah. That's funny. I don't think that was a accident.
Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Bilodeau. It's 2025, and I got you now.
Prosecutors say Teresa Fusco was leaving her job at the roller rink on the night of November 10th, 1984. She then went missing. 3.5 weeks later, her body was found on December 5th in a wooded area here near Park Place.
Mr. Blodo. That was freaking classic.
In Lynbrook, about a half mile from her home. The district attorney says Teresa was raped and strangled to death. The DA would not go into detail about why they started investigating Bilodeau. In court, Bilodeau pleaded not guilty to the murder charges.
This county tried 3 different individuals, convicted them. Ultimately, years later, they were exonerated after the county dug in and tried another individual. There's a ton of stuff.
Yeah, I guarantee you they had to twist and turn the state's attorney's arm hundreds of times to get that DNA retested. It happens all the time. They hate admitting that they were wrong. They just do.
for us to go through. It's going to take some time.
Prosecutors say Bilodeau lived in Limbrook in 1984 in his grandparents' house on Treadwell Avenue, a mile away from the Fusco home and the roller rink she worked at called Hot Skates. A neighbor who asked not to be shown says she remembers Bilodeau and would tell her kids to stay away from him.
I've known him for years. He was weird. Weird. Our kids were afraid of him.
The DA's office says Bilodeau has lived a quiet life, working at a Walmart in Suffolk. When asked about potential motive, the DA said she did not want to speculate. Teresa's father was grateful prosecutors continued pursuing an arrest.
And I'm very grateful for me and my family to come to an end like this than to constantly be a cold case situation.
You got to feel for these people. You know, these people, I mean, what else can they do? They hold out hope for some sort of, justice in this. This is, these cases are awesome. Going back to this statement over here, this comment here. Second. About right here. He was a real as holy at sentencing. Yeah, I have. There's when you do this stuff here, there's a few cases that really haunt you. This is one of them. Like that poor kid, Harmony Montgomery, man. That case will stick with me for the rest of my freaking life. I mean, that kid is such a cute little kid. She had no business being brutally unalived like that. It's just, and he is such a piece of shit. I just, oh, good night, Paula. I'm getting out of here soon too. Thank you so much for coming in, Paula. We love you. Stay safe. Have a good week.
The three men originally convicted of Teresa Fusco's murder were in jail for nearly 20 years, but their convictions were overturned because the prosecutor says based on advancements in DNA testing, which they say played a big role in this arrest. Joe?
Wow, a lot to take in there, Logan. Thank you for the latest. And the news of the arrest also sent shockwaves through the Center Moriches community. That's where.
So I'll probably end it there. I've been here almost 4 hours, for God's sakes. It's 3:30. Okay, I've been here 3:28:17. All right, so thank you guys very much for coming in. I really appreciate it. I think we had a good live. I think it went well. Very few, as Southern Gal, who's amazing, would say, dumpster fires or shit shows, which is funny. But I may do some more stuff like this here because sometimes it's good to break away from the actual true crime stuff, the whole live. But I do have the other channel too, Dean and Dino Reacts. I'll be doing another music thing probably on Sunday or Monday, one of those days. But you guys are all awesome. Enough about me. Jenny, thank you so much. Southern Gal, you're amazing. Thank you so much for coming in and helping out with the chat. You're awesome. You're just amazing. I'll try to catch Monday Night Live with you on Monday. Jenny, you're awesome. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you so much for all the stuff, your support and everything. Jenny's amazing. Paula, have a good night. You're awesome. Thank you for keeping up with my stupidity, making sure I do my live. Let's see here. Pertinent's awesome. Pertinent, thank you so much for coming in. It's always good to see you here. Charlotte's amazing. It's good to see Charlotte tonight. I haven't seen her for a while. I hope you're well. Stay safe over there. We really love you here in the chat. It's just not the same live without you. Farku, thank you so much. Farku is amazing too. I hope you guys enjoyed the live tonight because I did. Let's see here. Maybe I'll put together some sort of a Russian Romanov dynasty thing too. That's another family that needs attention. Dieter, thank you so much. Dieter's probably gone. Dieter, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. I hope you're doing well. I know Shibby was in here. Shibby, thanks a lot, man. Good luck with your Blue Jays and Toronto Maple Leafs. Can't believe I'm saying that. Let's see here. Mustang 1965, you're amazing. Thank you so much. I'll try to catch some of your lives too. Mustang's amazing. We had Mino Dino was in here. Mino Dino's great. I hope he's doing well. Thank him again for the wonderful news last week about Heather. We literally adore Heather here. She's such an amazing freaking person. I'm so glad with that news. It's just awesome. It's been a good week. All right, so we had Honeybee was in here. Honeybee is also amazing. She's got a great channel. Honeybee is just she's so wonderful. Just she every time she's in here, it's just a good live. It's a good chat. Charlie Manson was in here. Necessarily Evil was in here. Thanks, buddy, for coming in. Appreciate it. Necessarily Evil's awesome. Got a great show, great channel. Let's see here. I know we had a lot of people in here. I apologize if I don't get to everybody. I know that Big Fish was in here. Big Fish is awesome. We had a new guy in here too. I forget his name, but if you can subscribe to him, that'd be great. He's looking for subscribers. Let's see here. I'm gonna forget people. It's just the way it goes. It's my life. But I want to thank everybody. I want to thank all of the people who are watching the replay. If people didn't watch on a replay, probably not have a channel. It's just the way it goes. We have a lot of people on replay, so we really appreciate the replay people. Because I know this is a godly hour of night. It's terrible coming on here. I really appreciate everybody for coming. And Luis Cuevas was in here. Before I forget, Boston Christian was in here. And if I missed you, I know John Paul Hansen was in here. Brian, that's him. Brian, thank you. Right after this live, I'm going to go surprise to his channel. Monday night will be missing from New York City. Okay, good. That's awesome. Monday night, missing from New York City. All right, I'm going to get out of here. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry. It wasn't done on purpose. I've been here 3 hours and 30 minutes, so I'm pretty sure you guys are sick of me. All right, so let's go. I'm going to play my outro and get the hell out of here. Whatever you guys do, don't die. And we'll see you guys next week. Whoops. I like that name, Prowlets. I'll have to keep that in mind. I appreciate that. Yeah, Farq was in here too. Thank you, Farq. I better not say that too fast. All right, so I'll play my outro. I'll get out of here. You guys have been great. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys next week.